today, I know that you're super excited, so am I. I am Dr. Jefferson, and thank you so much for watching Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson. This is a show where we reflect and talk about popular hot topics in the community and our society here in the United States. Okay, so I know that I was a little bit behind in getting this broadcast off and started today. So I want to welcome you guys to the show. Today we're going to talk about a combination of things. The primary mode of delivery for me has been Facebook and Facebook. I've always been on YouTube, but I just didn't really use it. I used it to view things more so than I did to broadcast. And so now it is my intention to expand my YouTube page and my following and things like that. So as you guys see in the description, there is a link for my YouTube page. I want you guys to go over and to follow that page, to like it, subscribe it, share it, etc., so that we can expand that network, so that I can kind of push this show out here in the way that a lot of people have come my way and asked me to do this. That's the first thing. Today's show is going to focus primarily around child rearing, parenting, and society, and where we are and how we have shaped some of our ideals around parenting and how we've transitioned and evolved as parents of children. I definitely want to kind of vie for you guys' feelings, your thoughts and emotions around parenting. And I'm going to start off with a news report from a couple of days ago. And I feel like that is some really important content for us to be talking about right now. And it's heavy. It is. It's a lot to the story. But we're going to kind of delve into, and we're going to shift gears into how we're parenting and some of the things that we're exposing our kids to, and the importance of transitioning into a mindset where we're more receptive to the world that we are now cultivating. So, for those of you who are viewing me for the first time, I am Dr. Jefferson. This is Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson, and my guest today is the official urban therapist. And for those of you who feel like you want to share your insights or experiences on the show, you are welcome to chime in and come backstage, and I'll bring you guys on so that you can share that stuff with the viewing audience. I'm going to let the official urban therapist kind of talk about how you guys can find him and talk about some of what his platform entails when he is broadcasting.
Hello, everybody, and Dr. Jefferson. Once again, I appreciate the opportunity for being on your platform today. We always have some great discussions. So I am found on Facebook, and I'm also on YouTube as the official urban therapist. So just tune in to me. And I normally just drop different various topics dealing with, social issues or social behavior, and we just try to find solutions for them.
All right. So this is the story that we're going to talk about today. And I want to make sure that you guys can hear me before I start to read it off. I have kind of magnified it so that you guys can read it for yourself. But I'm going to read the content of the story off to you guys. And we're going to start off with that. And then we're going to transition to a very controversial video that has surfaced out there, and young kids are watching the video, and I may even do this relationship topic that somebody sent me, but I want to start with this. So LaTanya Austin, a 43-year-old Cincinnati grandmother, is facing murder charges in the death of her 2-year-old granddaughter after allegedly striking the child and hiding her body in a cooler. Austin is charged with aggravated murder, and felonious assault in the death of her granddaughter, Zayla Lee. According to Hamilton County Prosecutor Joe Dieters, Lee died as a result of blunt force trauma to the head after Austin struck her. Austin then hid Zelula's body in a cooler, causing additional post-mortem injuries, including a deep laceration and broken arm, according to Dieters. It is impossible to comprehend the depravity of an individual able to not only strike a 2-year-old so hard to cause her death, but to then attempt to conceal that crime by stuffing the child's lifeless body into a cooler. Dieter said in a statement, "As a father and a grandfather, I am sick. I am saying a prayer for the victims, siblings, and members of the Cincinnati Police Department who had to process and investigate this horrible scene." Okay. Says that she'd previously been charged as they were doing the investigation, I'm assuming, with evidence tampering and gross abuse of courts. If convicted of all charges, Austin faces life in prison. Okay. So that's that story. All right. And I wanted to start off with that because I feel like that's a lot, you know. It's a lot. It says a lot.
Yeah, that is.
And it's really, really heavy. My first question for this discussion, of course, was why did you become a parent? And I may go to the Facebook post that I initiated when I asked this question, because at the onset of today's of my morning, right, I asked this question on my Facebook, just kind of survey some of the responses that I got. And I'm gonna say this, okay? Sometimes we become parents to children, and it's not, we don't plan to be parents, right? And I heard from a cast that I was listening to that parents are becoming parents and taking their anger and hostility out on the children as a result of them never wanting to be parents. And there is research, clinical research, to kind of back some of the things that happens to the human body and the personality shaping of a person who is being carried by a person who does not want them or want kids. Let me put it like that. However, I've got to say that as a person who never planned and never intended to have children myself, when I became a parent, it was never, there were never moments where the love for my kids was in a place of a deficit. So sometimes when I hear stories like this, I'm baffled. I'm baffled. So I'd like to know how you guys feel about parenting, becoming parents, disciplinary practices, things that you expose your kids to. And we're going to kind of delve into this conversation a little bit deep today, because we're going to take this thing full circle. But I wanted to start with this because this is something this story comes from the 10th of June. Today's the 12th. Oh, also, I want to, wish a happy birthday to Mike. And hopefully his day is great today. I don't know why he became a parent. Hopefully he'll come on the show and share his insights about that. So, afternoon, Mad Militant, how are you? So let's talk about this, Urban Therapy.
Happy birthday.
I'm sure that he is appreciating those wishes. So yeah, what are your thoughts hearing that story?
Well, it's a pretty interesting and tragic story just by what I did observe from it. Just from my perspective about becoming a parent, in my first marriage, us having our children, it was a choice that me and my first wife both made. So it was very much planned. So when we planned to have our children, we had a whole plan in mind that we want to be at a certain income level. We want to be living comfortably where we could be able to raise our children. Unfortunately, when we deal with life situations, it didn't necessarily happen that way. So we was left parenting while dealing with, life situations. And I believe sometimes that's what happened with other people as well, is that they want to have a strict plan while raising children, but sometimes it just don't happen that way.
So, do you think that people who become parents sooner than they had anticipated, do you think that those people are less effective as parents than the people who are parents that never intended to have children at all? Oh, cool.
Um, well, it just depends on their situation. I'm answering slower because I'm listening to you on my cell phone too.
Oh, it's okay.
So it's kind of having a little delay.
But
but
I
yeah,
have a lot of
that's
mixed
to answer the
feelings about
question. It does depends on an individual. Just like you stated earlier.
Here's what I think. Okay. I think that and I'm gonna share the link for you guys that want to come on just in case you decide. But so here's what I think. I think that people become parents and it's sometimes to no fault of their own, right? So in their minds, they're thinking, someone else made me a parent. Oftentimes, I hear people come in to a conversation saying, well, I never intended to have kids. So, becoming a parent was a hard thing for me. And then I asked them about the way that they understood the act of sex, right? And what that meant for them as they entered into that act. So, I hear a lot of excuses about, oh, well, I was using a condom or, whatever. Prophylactics are not a guarantee, and everybody knows that. Abstaining from having sex with a person that you don't want to become a co parent with at some point is the best practice to protect you from getting kids, period. Now, sex is a pleasurable activity between people, and I think that some people become parents before they're prepared to, and as a result, they also become early grandparents. This woman is, let's look at her. So Trey, you can't see the Mad Militant's comments. I don't know if he's on YouTube. Yeah, he's on YouTube. So let me look at her age one more time. Let me look at this story really quickly. Again, pull this thing up. Take a look at that. So 43.
Oh, Money Boy Trey, what's up with it, bro? And Mad Milton, what's up with y'all too?
So she's 43 years old. And she's a grandmother of a 2-year-old. So let's break this down and try and analyze it. Do you think that she became a grandparent too early? In your opinion? Do you think that do you think that she's a person who became a grandparent too early? Let's see.
Um, just based on this story, yeah, I think she did become a grandparent too early, prematurely.
Do you think that when you become a grandparent and you're not prepared to be a grandparent, do you think that's something do you think that that's something that I'm trying to think of a better way to put this, okay? Because it's, you know how you say a thing in your mind and it comes off bad. But so, do you think if you become a grandparent too early, do you think that you should engage in that role
Yeah.
as a person? Because becoming a parent too early, okay? Becoming a parent too early is something
Well,
that we can argue you must engage in. There is no doubt about it. You must engage. There's also adoption, but at the very least, you have to engage in making some decisions for the life of that child. Okay. When I talk about becoming a grandparent, as a grandparent, you can always walk away without really ever having done harm to that child's psyche. If the parent, however, chooses to do harm by way of introducing you or your actions as defile or whatever, defamatory, whatever they decide to do, then they're still responsible for causing that harm. Okay. They're, it's, it is what it is. Okay. So being a grandparent too early, you can walk away. You can say, hey, I'm not ready to be a grandparent. I'm not watching your kid.
mm-hmm.
And you can decide to not watch the kid. I'm not going to be raising kids anymore, and you can decide conscientiously you don't want to raise kids anymore, and as a result, you're not going to invite your kids or them over to your house or go over to their house. You can decide to just take a hands-off approach, walk away, and decide I'm not in an emotional, mature place to be able to walk this path. Okay. Um where did we go wrong in this situation? And this is a Black woman. This is a Black community issue. And I'm going to continue to bring these issues to the forefront of the Black community. And we're going to continue to confront these issues in the Black community where these children are dying. And yes, I said children because even the Black on Black crime that is in the streets of urban cities, they're committed by children oftentimes, but children are dying as a result, teenagers. um so where did we go wrong? And I'm reading Kale's comment. So what do you think, urban therapist I became?
Okay, I'm back now. I can hear you perfectly good now.
Okay.
Yes, yes. Now I could really get into this conversation. Now, um, one thing that I do disagree with when parents become grandparents, I totally disagree with this notion that once when they finish raising their children, that their assignment as being parents is complete. Where they start getting this whole concept that, well, these are your children, you need to deal with your children. I'm grandmom or I'm grandfather and do this and that. I'm in a generation where I honestly feel like that it do take a village to raise a community or raise a household, and I feel that that doesn't stop just because you finish raising your children. Of course, you have generations and other generations of children that are being brought forth into this world, so it shouldn't stop there. It should always continue. Wherever wisdom and knowledge that you taught to your children, it should be passed down to their children as well, and to their children, where we continue the concept of raising each other, period. The only, just from my observation, the only quote unquote grandparents that I see that resemble that type of behavior is normally ones who are normally younger. And I'm saying like within the 40 and under age bracket of becoming grandparents, and they have this mentality. I don't want to raise, I ain't raising your kids, I ain't watching them. So it's kind of crazy.
So I have to admit, although I believe in it taking a village to raise a kid, I wholeheartedly feel like parents who don't want to be parents um, need viable means to get out of that parental duty. However, if they do so, exiting from that experience, exiting from the duty to parent, especially the mother, because the child bonds with the mother in a different way um, during the time that they are in utero. So we understand that the imprint made on the mind and on the social component, as far as like security bonds and attachment on a child, those are very important. In the field of psychology, it's very important to understand people and how people work and what makes, people who are productive members of society, right? What creates that? What really seeds that? And so there is an essential component for the parent caregiver mom, essential component for the parent caregiver father. I think that the grandparent role is a more optional role when we're talking about if that impact of you being in that child's life is going to negatively affect that child. Um, so I feel if it is the best option for that child, and if you're looking forward and you know that you can't be productive in that space of being a grandparent, I think that it's more appropriate for you to step away. I
Yeah,
think that if this grandmother had stepped away, this child would still be alive.
yeah, absolutely. I could agree to that. Um, and let me reemphasize something else too. Now, it is totally different if the parent is trying to dump off their child to the grandparent and trying to force the grandparent to raise their child while they have a hot girl summer or whatever it is that they're doing. That is totally unacceptable because that resembles already right off the bat, that resembles negative behavior right off the bat. Um, where they're detaching themselves from their child and trying to allow the grandparent to assume that responsibility of something that they're responsible for. So in that case, if the grandparent chooses to let you like, hey, I'm not going to deal with this because of where you at right now, then yeah, that's totally acceptable. But like my statement was based on the concept that the parent and the grandparent, they both have a relationship with each other and they both have a relationship with the child, and they're both working together to raise that child up. That's what I was talking about.
I'm curious as to whether or not she was on board with her child when her child became pregnant. If she's the mom of the daughter, or when the woman became pregnant, if she's the mom of the father. I'm curious about a lot of things around this case because there are a lot of things that tell me. Let me tell you something. I'm a person that I have no problem with cutting off ties with people.
Hmm.
And I'm very effective when it comes to protecting my energy center for myself and my children as a mother. And so are the same for my children's dad. So I think that when you see, as a parent, when you see that something is not conducive to the overall productivity of the person that you are responsible for rearing, to shape, you know what I mean, to grow and to cultivate, when you see that those people around you in your support network, because it does take a village, but you have a choice as a parent as to what that village looks like. In the Black community, we want to make all types of excuses and we want to say, well, at the end of the day, it is what it is. And at the end of the day, these people need support because they got to go to work. They need their parents because they got to, no, no, no. I've been in entire countries where I had no family. I've been in entire situations where that wasn't a possibility. I know my internet is lagging just a little bit, you guys. I'm not really sure what's going on with it. Um, but I've been in situations where I've not had family. So I have not had support. And I feel like if you don't have support, you can build a support network. It's possible to build. So you're responsible for kids safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give me
Now,
2 seconds. I'm gonna. I'm gonna let you talk because I'm gonna see if I can fix this internet problem. It's probably my many kids lagging my internet. Hold on.
Yeah, but even for this grandmother that we're talking about, the most that we can do just on speculate because we don't know the whole situation that transpired to led to her doing this. I could speculate and just say that maybe the grandmother didn't have a good relationship with the daughter or with the child father, or maybe it was because the grandmother didn't want the daughter to procreate with the child's father, and she was totally in disagreement with it. And now, they're stuck to raising this child. And one day, grandmom just got into her feelings and felt like that this 2-year-old no longer needed to be in the world just to save, her daughter the frustration or whatever it is that's going on in the situation. But once again, now I'm just speculating. I don't know the full story of what's going on, but unfortunately, it's very, very tragic. And I hate seeing stories like this, especially in our communities that people do things like this. So at the end of the day, if it's an issue with this 2-year-old child, there are other options that are out there. If the grandmother didn't want to watch the 2-year-old, she had other options she could have expressed. She could have told the mother like, "Hey, I don't want to have nothing to do with her," and just you find some way, put your child in daycare, do something because I don't want to have nothing to do with this. Could have left her with the child father. So many different options could have been there, regardless of doing what she did with this child.
So what I don't like, the thing that resonates or stands out the most for me, what I do not like is, in America where things may be clear that this is what happened, we have to use the terms alleged, right?
Yeah.
Alleged. There is an allegation made against this woman that she did this or that. It's very clear that she killed this child. And it leads to a better, I guess, a more productive conversation. Kale mentioned that he became a parent because he was thinking the fact of, okay, expanding his family. Coming from a small family, he wanted to be able to expand his family network, right?
Mm-hmm.
Family meant something to him. You mentioned earlier that it takes a village and family means something to you.
Mm-hmm.
So my question for you, because I have to ask the black man question, the tough question here. You as a father who is a black man, right? If you saw that your kids were in a situation where they could be in danger, right? Would you step up and take over the parental role of your child and provide a protective environment for your child?
Absolutely, absolutely, I will. But however, the only problem with that is that you have to deal with the legal aspect of that. Now, in the state of Texas, I family court system is very, very tough on not just black men, but us men. Period. It's very tough on men. Period. Where it's a less probability that a man would even win custodial rights to their child
Mm-hmm.
based in the state of Texas laws. And I believe that it's like that in other states as well, where if you want to take on that role, it's very, very tough for men to gain custodial right. It have to be um, a very high substantial evidence for them for the courts to rule in a man's favor. And I mean like a extreme situation where the mom is on drugs and she just completely unfit for that child, um, or the mom doing anything that could want to place harm on that child, then there'll be the extreme reason where the man can win that custodial rights. But other than that, it's very difficult. And that's what many men have to face in America. They have to face that every single day. I'm one of those who want to fight who had fought for my own children rights after when I had divorced my wife. I had to go into the court system and just fight for my rights just to be a father and just to participate in our life, because the courts wasn't hearing it at all. So I had to learn a lot of family law. I had to learn a lot of situations. My experience also with dealing with just lawyers. There are many lawyers in a situation. They feel that it's better for them to side with with the mom than with the father, regardless of the circumstance, because they know there's more money involved with siding with the mom versus siding with the father. That's was my personal experience that I dealt with. So at one point in time, I had a lawyer. I had to fired my lawyer for incompetence. And so I learned family law on my own. Then I went pro se in my own cases. I represented myself in my cases and was able to do everything necessary so I could be actively involved in my children's life. But even then, it takes for, just men, it takes for them to be very knowledgeable about their family law system in a state and to do their due diligence. And unfortunately, it do take money as well, income as well, so you can do what you need to do. But sometimes the men, they get so discouraged by that, where they just give up. They're just like, whatever, whatever you want to do, this, is what it is.
So I guess my burning question is this: at the point where you felt like your lawyer was not representing you to the extent that you had expected, right?
Mhm.
What went through your head?
Initially, and just to be transparent about it, initially what went into my head was that I honestly felt that that not only the lawyer but the whole state of Texas was sided with my child's mother at the time, and they didn't have no best interest for the children, because in my mind, the best interest for the child is for them to have both parents share parenting, period. And so when I was dealing with that situation, it honestly, I just felt that the systems and at that time the one child's mother they didn't have the best interest for the child. Is just more of a selfish or more of a gaining perspective.
Okay, so oftentimes we hear the question, where are the Black fathers, right? We hear that question. How do you feel when you hear that, being a Black father?
Um, I have two perspectives about that. First of all, dealing with me or men who are like me, where we're active in our children's life, but however, wherever situation that happened with their mother, we have to deal with that. That's our burden that we have to deal with, and sometimes that burden do becomes difficult depending on who you procreate with. And it becomes so difficult where the best interest for the child is for their father to detach himself from that situation. Other situations, just to be transparent about it too, is that it be fathers who procreate with women, like you were saying earlier, and they just wasn't ready to have a child, but they was forced or coerced into the situation, even though they knew there were consequences behind it, where they went in and didn't have a condom, or condom could have broke, or any of these different situations. Then they end up happening to them. Then they express that to the child's mother that, hey, look, I don't want to have a child. I'm not ready for this. What do we need to do? Some of them, some women, they'll spitefully will keep the child, and some women would do this because they feel like if they keep the child, it's going to keep the father. So they'll keep the child in that situation. Other situations would be on women where they've been brought up, probably in a religious setting, and they don't believe in abortion or anything like that. So they want to take on that. If they created this responsibility, they want to take on that responsibility. So therefore, they'll keep the child in that situation as well. But it leaves that
father into a tough situation? Do I become a father to a child that I wasn't ready for, or do I want, or do I go ahead and make this choice to do that? Go ahead and be the father.
Okay, so how do you feel about this? Who are the people that are responsible in situations where children are created? And I know some of you people out there are looking at this comment like, what do you mean? Who's responsible? So I always hold people accountable, right? So everybody's accountable for their interaction, whatever that is, their contribution to situations where kids are now being, procreation is taking place, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So sometimes we have to hold the mother of the mother accountable, the mother of the father accountable, the father of the mother, and the father of the mother of the kid accountable. So grandparents, right? We have to hold them accountable because sometimes they create situations like I know I've heard from the Black family several times that one of the main things is overzealous mothers hoping that their daughters don't become them, and as a result, locking them up in the house. Right, trying to make sure nobody could get to them, and so being that parent that's overly policing these kids, right? Sometimes that leads to the more curiosity and kids going out there doing exactly what it is the parents are saying don't do. You can't talk to boys. That's crazy. Boys and girls exist all the same, and why can't you talk to one sex over the other? Right? And so I hold everybody accountable for the situations. However, when I think about the responsibility component, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's actually responsible for kids being made? Do you hold the school accountable and responsible equally? Do you hold the parents? Or is it only the people that are getting pregnant? So the guy and the girl that are hooking up and making a baby.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay,
how do you deal with that? Like, what's your view?
Well, before I address that, do you mind? I want to address Money Boy comment real quick. He was asking me, did they side with the mom in that situation? In the beginning, they absolutely sided with her in the beginning. That was the reason why I ended up firing my attorney for incompetence, and that's why I went into pro se. Now, I don't know if you know this, Money Boy, or any men who are watching this right now, that in family court, you can represent yourself because that's a civil matter. So you don't have to pay an attorney all these legal fees to represent a civil matter. All right. So
even in criminal court.
In criminal. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you don't have to do that. That's optional. So like I stated earlier, I learned the family court system. I learned the laws in my state. And when I went in the second time around, my whole goal was not to win full custodial rights of my children. That was not my goal. My whole goal was that I want to have joint manager conservatorship with my children. That way, she makes certain decisions, I make certain decisions too. And we will be forced into a shared parenting situation together. That's my whole goal in that. So when I went there the second time around, expressed my goal and expressed that this was going to be the best interest for the children, represent myself, the court approved that, and that's where we're at right now. Now for the accountability part. Now the accountability, it's all around accountability. It's accountability for the woman who made a decision to put her legs up to this man. It's accountability for this man who decides to penetrate this woman and decide to have sex with her and shoot up the club without using protection. There's also accountability for the woman part, because there are other contraceptions that women use as well that prevents pregnancy. They're out there, include Plan B and all these other things. They're out there. So it's accountability on both of their parts. Now it can also be accountability on parents as well, for us educating them about the importance of having sex and procreating and explaining to them the real purpose of coming together as one versus you're just trying to have fun per se, and have orgasms or whatever and stuff like that. It's kind of built on the parent part as well to educate them about that as well. It could be on accountability even within the education system as well as them going to school. Because I remember at one point in time when I was in school, they in our health class they did a whole almost half semester just talking about health and sex. Period. Explain the whole process of it. I don't know if they're doing that now, but I know in my time they did it.
It's definitely a part of education systems, especially you're talking about a public education system. They're trying to make sure they're covering all the bases of cultivation. That goes to another question that I have in here, but I'm still going to talk about that because at the end of the day, every component, right? And I think I put the question up, do you guys believe in a village mentality? So the folks that are watching, you guys feel free to answer these questions. It's not just for us, it's for everybody. Excuse me, because if we have a comprehensive conversation about this and we start expanding our viewpoints and understanding where other people sit on these issues, especially people in the Black community, I feel like we give ourselves an opportunity to expand our knowledge base, but then change our behaviors, the way that we function, because we can look at some of the outcomes. For example, like, the urban therapist just shared with you guys his experience and going after the shared custodial, parental decision-making of his kids and things like that. And that could definitely be helpful for someone who is out there going through a very similar situation and they feel like the courts are not on their sides. But America is a country that typically sides with the woman primarily. And a lot of times the woman isn't the one who's the most fit to be raising the kid at, different points in that child's life. I personally believe in having the open idea to what parenting should look like and having that conversation before you even become parents, before you even become people who are having sex with one another. I have these questions, have had these conversations before I was ever sexually involved with anyone. Because for me, it was really important to understand where I was going with a person, where we were building from, who this person really is, the things that are important to them. And for me, I think that's why my life is shaped out to be the way it is. Because I feel like you have to get to know people, the foundation of people. And I feel like that's something that people are very afraid to do. When I hear people telling me that they want help with dating or finding an ideal mate, when I talk about some of the first date questions that they should be asking, you're more willing to involve yourself in sexual acts with a person you are to ask about their sexual health or their sexual history. These are things that you should be curious about. You're more willing to engage in sex with a person before you even know what their sexual preferences are. I don't understand why those are very disconnected and uncomfortable spaces for people. But the act of sex in and of itself isn't. There are so many things that confuse me about the Black community. So many things. But I just feel like we have to be people that hold one another accountable. And when we see things that are going on in our community and we see that, certain processes need to be improved, I think that we should speak on it. And I think that we should definitely move to help shape outcomes or better ways of us managing, engaging those, those different experiences or processes in our community.
I have a question about that too. You mentioned that we need to hold one another accountable, right? So my question is that how can we hold each other accountable when we're both pretty much messed up? We both have these certain unrealistic expectations, and then if you try to confide with each other with these unrealistic expectations, wouldn't that create more negative behavior?
No, I think that people grow, right? So sure. Can you guys hear me? Because I know like my connection is terrible. Hold on a second. Let me switch connections. Okay.
Yeah, Money Boy, he said he could hear you, but it's choppy. That's the same experience I'm having. But it was doing good for the most part.
Yeah, I'm switching just to see if that improves. Okay, is that better
Yeah,
for
that's
now?
better. Yeah, that's better.
Okay. But so what I was saying is I feel like there are people grow at different intervals, right? So we're not all going to have the same rate of growth. We're not going to grow and move into the same spaces at the same time. That's never going to happen. What is for certain though is that growth is an inevitable component to living. We are going to grow regardless of what we want to do, of what life yields for us or whatever.
Yeah, I
But
could agree to that.
if we are going to truly grasp and hold on to the opportunities that life has for us and mature, we have to be conscientious in that growth, and we have to be aware in that growth, and we have to make a decision in that growth to recognize where we have deficits in our functional areas, in our functional capacity to be with people in one way or the other. And we have to recognize what needs change and be able to call a thing and have that conversation, have those conversations with people. So what that looks like, if I'm building with you and we had unrealistic expectations to start with, and now seeing life unfold, we realize that those ideals don't match up to what life is yielding for us, right? We sit down and have a conversation, and we're very transparent about the fact that, hey, this is something that I realize has happened over the course of our becoming. And I notice that we are constantly at one another's neck. And I don't know, I find it very hard to be respectful of you. I find it very hard to honor what you want. I find it hard to live up to the expectations that we set initially. So how can I better move into a place to where I'm acceptable in your sight? Because apparently I'm talking about what I see, right? I'm not
Hmm.
talking about what may be true for them, but I'm talking about my observations. So my introspect, me going in, digging deep, doing the self-work going on in our system. And now I'm talking about that, right? So now I'm creating to hold my own self accountable. That leads to you feeling comfortable, me accountable, but also doing your own self work to hold yourself accountable. Now we can build from this and we can become something greater and more effective.
Interesting. So, well, even with this same situation, what if you're the one who's placing accountability on yourself, but however your significant other is so where they at, and they're not going to change whatsoever. Um, like say for example, you saying that apples are red, apples are red. I'm saying apples are blue, apples are blue. And you're the one who wants to make it more realistic. Like, okay, this is the space that I'm at, but at the same time, I don't want to agree with you on that. But however, um, what can we do to come to a to a center agreement with this, where we're not where we're not creating negative behavior with us. But me, I like nope, apples or blue. I don't care what you say. This is what it is. As this was gonna be. So how would one would deal with that situation?
I think that you have to agree, like they say, agree to disagree. But I don't believe in agreeing to disagree. I believe in agreeing to see that people have their own truths, and it's okay for them
Absolutely,
to
I
stick
agree
with a
that too.
different truth than you. And having respect, learning to respect that other people can live in the same space, be in the same space, and have the same experiences as you, and still see something different.
Hmm. Yeah, because like
Um, take a different perspective on the situation.
yeah, because like right now, I'm currently married now. Um, my well, whenever me and my wife have certain conversations, I know that she has her perspective and I have my perspective. But one thing I always emphasize to her is that it's okay for you to have your own personal perspective. Then it's okay for you to disagree with me, because at the end of the day, we just have two opinions. If it's certain things that I say you don't agree with, yes, express it to me. But at the end of the day, if as you we say, quote unquote, agree or disagree, that doesn't mean that. Uh, I don't like you because you disagree with me. That ain't what it means. That doesn't mean that it is a certain topic of discussion that we just don't see eye to eye with. But it doesn't cause our union to discontinue because of that. But sometimes in relationships, that's what happened. People would go extra with it and and go into their feelings where they feel like that this is causing a disconnection with the total union period when it's not the case at all.
Okay, so Trey is trolling. So the thing is, people will always have their own perspective, and they're more than entitled to it. People will always have their opinions as well. Opinions and perspectives that shape our realities are two different things. I
Hmm.
got to make that line of delineation very clear for you guys. However, we have to learn how to value opinions lighter than we value the perspective component, because the perspective, the reality shift of perspectives, right, is very important, especially when we're talking about somebody that is your intimate partner, because they have to feel valid in the space that they hold with you, because that's a sacred space, right?
Hmm.
And so sometimes it's hard to give the respect that is due to your partner, because you find yourself in a space where you're differentiating so much on some things that it makes you doubt how and why, or even if it's worth anything for you guys to be together. And so the realities are this: if your partner differs in your opinion, you have to understand that there is validity in that person's opinion for them, based on their perspectives, because that's where their truths lie, right? And typically your truths definitely seed into you shaping your opinions about things. And so you have to give the respect to them having their own perspectives. You have to give respect to their experiences in life that give way for them to shape certain views of the world that they live in. And you have to give appreciation for that differentiation, because you can't grow without a different outlook on life. You have to allow yourself to really mature in your growth and have various insights that help shape that growth. Doesn't mean that you have to adopt the same principles that they feel are true for them. Just means that you have to respect where they're coming from and how they got there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I could agree to that.
Well, no, not necessarily. If men are leading, the leadership of a man means that, has anyone ever heard the thing, in order, the term, what is it, the saying that if a good leader has to be a great follower? So being an ideal leader is about knowing when to lead and when to follow, and how to do both. Positioning, maneuverability. Um you've got to know when to yield your opinions to greater perspectives, And that's what I'll say about that. So that means that a man has to lead from his position and a woman has to lead from her position if we're talking about relationally. And people have to lead from their expertise. So that's what brings it all together. I don't know about Kevin Samuels. It'd be interesting to sit down and have a conversation with him.
I would love to have a conversation with Kevin Samuel, but he only interviewed women, so
I'm not a woman that's an ideal candidate to call his show. I don't have anything that I need his perspectives on. So life yields what it yields, and I'm pretty happy about the fruits of my labor. But I feel like he serves a purpose for some women that are looking for that because they need that because they haven't had that in their life, And so the thing is, a man should never follow his woman, period. However, he should follow wise advisement. Okay. I don't think I can pay for the type of advice that Kevin Samuels gives.
He'll definitely get your platform right though, because you're gonna have the manosphere and everything, everybody on your platform.
That's the kind of energy that I'm looking for. I'm not looking for, and that's the thing. When I talk about following, right? So the man should never be following anybody. It is a man's natural position in life to lead. There are a lot of men following.
So I think you need to bring a better perspective about this term following, because people only see it in that aspect.
So when you're following people, that means that and we're in a society where following is the thing, and leading and having your own insights drive where things are going is just not popular anymore. It has become quite unpopular. And so if you look at it, following someone, that means allowing them to lead you somewhere, right? Not taking the advisements of under consideration to expand your own perspectives and views. Hear me now. Okay? That's a different thing. But a lot of men will gather behind another man and follow him before he will follow his intent and purpose within himself. That's embedded within himself. And that leads to the demise of relationships. And to be honest with you, that's one of the first things that led to the undercutting of healthy relationships in the Black community. Women had to follow the man's lead because he stepped out of a place of being able to effectively do his job and be positioned in his role as the leader of the system.
But who told her that though, that man stepped out of his place?
She saw it. Women had been, so a woman will see the faults of a man and say nothing about it because they're expecting that man to shape up, right? They're expecting that. They expect that without communication though. And that's the failure of the woman. The problem is, men cannot shape up and do anything without your proper advisements as his compass. As a woman, your position in the relationship is just as vital as his position. So if you can't feed into your man that in which he needs to be able to lead your system appropriately, then the demise of the relationship is a collective catastrophe for everybody involved, but everybody's responsible for the demise of that said relationship. Everything is systemic. It's all circular.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm gonna challenge you on this. All right, I'm challenging you on this. All right, so I asked that question earlier. Who told her that he wasn't leading effectively, right? So let's use an example. Normally, I don't like using biblical references, but in this situation, I feel that it yields it. In the beginning, in the Genesis narrative for the Christian Bible, right? It tells the story of God commanding Adam to not eat from the tree of knowledge, right? So Adam didn't eat from the tree. However, Eve went to the tree, and of course she was, as the narrative say, she was seduced by the wild serpent. So she ended up partaking from the tree and also giving Adam the fruit from the tree as well. So when I asked that question again, like who told her that he was a leader effectively, who told her that? Because that's from a society point of view, many men who are actually in the right place, they actually are leading effectively, but sometimes it be the woman who don't agree with their leadership. So they end up taking advice for someone outside of their relationship, and they giving them this false advice or false narrative, telling them, well, he doing this and that. Well, girl, you need to stand up and be an independent woman. You need to do this, blah, 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 whatever, which causes the shift into their relationship because she chose to take the fruit from this person outside of the relationship. And say it qualify that and say that the man is not leading effectively, and then that's what caused a lot of strife in that situation.
So a woman is responsible for collecting information outside of the relationship in order to build on the dynamics in which the man seeks her advisements on. That's her responsibility in the relationship, period.
Yeah, absolutely.
To go to the point that you're making from the Bible, if we were to use the Bible, right, to guide and shape this conversation, because oftentimes when I am called to speak and lead like women's and men's days, things like that for different churches, because I'm not a religious person, I'm a deep spiritualist. However, so when I'm called to do these things, I talk about this all the time in an abundance. So the language is that God created woman to be a man's helpmate. What do you think that means? You have to be able to determine what it is to help a person. So if a man is going to lead effectively, and he commanded man to be the leader of the nation, right? And he wanted woman to help this man, and he wanted woman to be a conduit for procreation and creating life and expanding life and allowing this life that they create to be abundant for what the world needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
She has to help him in his position of leading that system. So her job is, like I said, to be his compass, to guide him through the things where he's struggling with her intuition, because that's what she was gifted with. So man was gifted with the leadership position and woman is gifted with the intuition. Now it's up to the woman to use her intuition wisely, and also to have the discernment is also on a woman. That's why I talked about the responsibility piece, because a woman has a lot of responsibility. I didn't get to that piece, but the discernment is on the woman. There is a reason that he who finds a good thing, who finds a wife, finds a good thing. There's a reason for that. The woman is charged with discernment. That is our gift. That's innately our position in the world, period. That's just how we fit into the puzzle. We have to discern what is good, what is fair, what is just, before we even decide to take that back to the table of negotiation, where that man has sought out advisement, guidance, understanding. And so when we provide that to him, he's now in a better position to be able to have a collective viewpoint from which he will make his decision that will lead that vessel or that system. So a woman has a job to do, and in her doing her job effectively, she will advise her man accordingly, and he will make a good and a wise decision, and she will follow, because that's what his job is. Her job is not to make the decision for him. It's to give him all the pieces of the puzzle that will allow him to navigate life and structure what it is, build what it is that their relationship will be founded upon, and how that thing moves is also up to him based on that information that she's collected. If she's doing her job effectively, you don't end up in the situations like Eve and Adam eating from the forbidden fruit, because her sins are his sins. His sins are her sins, because you are a union.
Yeah, so it's safe to say that you're speaking on the concept of cultivation, right? That you speak about cultivation from the one woman point of view. So
She's not responsible for cultivating her man. She's responsible for the compass. What does a compass do? Guides. A compass doesn't lead you. You do the leading. The compass tells you what direction you might be headed in. And what you understand what I'm saying?
yeah, I understand what you're saying.
But it's not doing the leading. You're the leader. You're the person making the decisions. You're the end all be all. You make a decision conscientiously whether or not you're going to continue to go in this direction, even though the compass is telling you that this is north right here, right? And we can talk about elevation, right? Levels. You could tell that obviously if you continue in this direction, you're going to friggin' drown. It's up to you whether or not you do it. The woman is just going to follow because she trusts that she's giving you what you need to make a conscientious and a wise decision because she trusts your insight. That's why she chose to submit in the first place.
So even question behind that. You mentioned the woman by her being a compass, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if it's the man overall responsibility and purpose to lead that woman into the direction that they need to go, then what's the whole point of the compass to begin with in the first place when it already been appointed to that man to lead wherever direction that man decides that he's going to go, that is where it's going to be. So if that be the case, what's the whole purpose of the compass?
The same reason that you need a compass in order to effectively, guide a ship into sail. So you can't make a decision if you don't have information to make the decision from. You can't be and, function in all capacities. The same thing happens for systems where we see, huge corporate establishments and things like that, Fortune 500 companies. Do you think that they'd be able to do it by themselves, or do you think they're a collection of a whole system?
Yeah, it's a systematic. Yeah, so I can agree with that.
Yeah, even human beings, one person, one man is a collective of the different individual parts. That's what makes him move in the way that he moves. But even him, that one system must have proper advisement. If your brain doesn't tell your body to do what it do, then it won't do what it does. If your brain doesn't tell your neurons, your synapses to respond in the way that they respond, if they won't respond in the way they respond, and you won't receive information collectively like you're supposed to, because the body of the person, the vessel of the person, is a representation of the system of people. So the body of your relationship, in the same way, you think about woman and man as the heart and the mind of the unit in and of itself. So even though the unit, right, the unit would be the body, that's the relationship. The man is responsible for leading the relationship. The woman is responsible for guiding his structure. You understand what I'm saying? And making those decisions, the brain makes those decisions to lead it.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand your concept. So in other words, without the brain, nothing else can't function at all. But also, the heart has the role too. So the brain could be a representation of the man. The heart could be the representation of the woman. The brain sending the synapse and signals for the whole body to function. But if the heart is not pumping the blood vessels into the whole entire body, then it's not going to function anyway, regardless if the brain is functioning or not.
Exactly.
I get it. So
they both have a role in the integral function of the entire system. If one fails, so does the other. If the other fails, because guess what? If the brain lacks oxygen, think about it. The oxygenation comes from heart and lungs.
Mm-hmm.
If the brain is without oxygen, the heart is responsible for pumping that oxygenation to the brain. Then guess what? The person is dead. They're brain dead. So the same thing happens in relationship. If the man lacks the insight in which he should lead that relationship off of, the relationship will die. It's a collective failure, however, of the entire system, which is how people die, is how systems die. But essentially, we need the collective mind. We need the collective hearts. We need the collective spirit in order for us to be whole. So in order for your relationships to be whole, to be fulfilling, we need to recognize that there is respect due to every single component that makes that thing move. And no one component is more important than the other. They're all equally important in the outcome, essentially. So when we say that Black men are failing, so are the Black women. When we say that Black women are failing, so are the Black men. When we say that these people, these components are failing, so is the Black community.
Which is the body. Okay. Yeah, I understand that.
Right. So you see what I'm saying? Everybody has an essential role. You have to kind of step into that role in order for you to speak life and fruition into the vitality of the system. So when we look at this type of situation, what I see is this person being created is as a result of this entire system. But just because the system is responsible for curating this life or creating this life or the cultivation of this life doesn't mean that we cannot, that we have to keep all of those systemic parts in moving, right? We don't have to keep the grandmother in her function. We can remove the grandmother because obviously she has beat this child to death. So there were some concerns at some point when I talked about yesterday in the segments that we've talked about so far. When I talked about that, when we talked about discipline of children, right? There obviously were signs that the grandmother's means of controlling the behaviors of this young child, other young children she was responsible for, there were obviously signs that she was inadequate in her role, in her judgments, and her movements, and her thinking process, whatever it is. There were signs that she was not her best version of herself in that role. So guess what? It's easy to remove grandmother from some or all of those responsibilities. And then this child would still be here. We've got to stop saying people need folks to help them. And because they need folks to help them, we have to put up with abusive behaviors. The same thing goes for relationships. We have to stop saying that we women need a man. And as a result of her needing a man, she has to deal with a man that's going to beat on her, emotionally abuse her. We have to stop saying that a man needs a woman. And as a result of him needing a woman, he has to deal with a woman that's disrespectful and condescending and emasculating to him all the time, disrespectful to him and emotionally abusing him. We have to stop saying these things are vital needs for us. And as a result of them being vital needs, we are moving into an accepting toxicity in our life because we feel like we have to settle for anything that comes about as this is definitely the solution. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when I say this, I think that we have to hold our community responsible for the behaviors that shape this type of stuff happening to these children. So everybody is responsible to some extent, if not just fully accountable for the life of these children being made. However, we're not holding people accountable when these children are dying because we only see fit to hold the police accountable. That's it. In our community, that's us. So this grandmother murdering this baby, what's wrong with us? We're not talking about that. You don't see a million damn YouTubes talking about that, but you see a million YouTubes, you see protests, you see across the damn world. That's the crazy thing. You see all of this stuff happening as a result of police brutality against the Black community. But you don't see any of that stuff happening when these children are dying. This child was 2 years old. There is no life in that. I've seen kids gunned down on the streets at 3 years old. 3 years old, gunned down. I've been shot. That's not an experience that I would want any 3-year-old to experience.
Now, from our profession that we deal with, you know the reason why. At the end of the day, it deals with a lot of propaganda, and unfortunately, the people feed on negative or false news. That's what motivates them. That's what drives them. Like even right now, that's us being content creators. I'm not content. Even right now, it's probably not going to get as many views because we're talking about some serious issues. But unfortunately, it's not many people who are interested in factual truth. Versus if we create content where it's causing any type of negative behavior, where we're saying that black men ain't ish or women or thoughts or whatever. That's going to correct the views because that's what people want to see. It's the equivalent of looking at shows like what's that, the Desperate Housewives or whatever, that stuff that come on. It's just the same thing. Any type of negative thing, that's what people gravitate towards, and they'll feed on it. They even sacrifice their even lives, like you mentioned about the protests. They'll literally sacrifice their life off of something negative instead of finding out the factual truth about it.
Right. When I'm telling you, when Rayshard Brooks was killed, like it was like, oh, they killed another black man. You had an entire mayor responsible for leading a whole city of people actually get on national TV before even seeing anything.
Yeah, I think that was probably one of the main reasons why I had got put in Facebook jail. One of the reasons. I'm not gonna be in Facebook jail tomorrow, y'all. I'm gonna be live. And I'm going strong. But however, yeah, well, I did the one video talking about Rayshard Brooks, and I was expressing that at the end of the day, the situation that happened with him, he made that choice and he caused himself to be killed by the officer. It was point blank period. It had nothing to do with him being black or the officer being white, which he wasn't white. It had nothing to do with
it. And that's the crazy thing with me. Like people don't feel black people when they say stuff like that to people. Oh, well, you white because you look white, but you got a problem with somebody saying you black because you look black. You know what I mean? Or identifying the fact that you're black. That's a racist thing for black people. That's the craziest thing to me. But I feel like we have to be people that hold folks accountable. I held Rayshard Brooks accountable for his behaviors that led to his death because that's what it was.
Absolutely.
Does that mean that it's not a terrible day for his family? Of course. I know you're going to grieve your loved one because you lost him. Does it take away from the fact that life was lost? Of course not. But we can't hold somebody else accountable for another man's actions. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that because everything is systemic. There is an action for every reaction. For every reaction, there is another action. You understand? It's all a circle. It's a cycle. And so we have to be people that recognize that for what it is. Now, when we talk about the village mentality, that when it is easy for folks to say it takes a village to raise a child, to cultivate greatness and all that good stuff, but it literally takes a village because here is the thing. There are school social workers, school systems. There are parents, there are aunts, there are uncles, there are grandparents. There are all of those people that are responsible for cultivating the greatness or the minds of young people at some point, right? You got religion, if that's your thing. There are a host of things that go into raising kids. And so I'm curious, do you guys believe in village mentality?
Now, just like I emphasized earlier, I do believe in the village mentality. But however, I do have to put a disclaimer out there too about the village mentality. The village mentality back in the day is different from how it is now. With that being said, it's very difficult for people to trust each other to gain that village mentality perspective. Now, just for example, for me, I was brought up where my neighbors knew me, my neighbors knew me, and we was a whole village where everybody knew me. So if I got in trouble, normally I got in trouble by my parents. I got in trouble by the neighbors because we held each other accountable like that. But now, as I'm an adult right now, to be honest with you, I live in an area and I don't even know my neighbors at all. Not because I'm antisocial or I'm a introvert, which I'm not. It does for the simple fact that in this day and age, it's really difficult to trust your neighbor because you don't know where their mentality is at. You don't know if that neighbor is a pedophile. You don't know if that neighbor is jealous of you. You don't know whatever situation is going on with your neighbor for you to have that trust with them, especially a trusting your neighbors with your children. You just don't know. And so people have that sense of fear in these days to have that village mentality now, where they could really trust their neighbor to do that, you know. So I believe that's where we at right there. In order for us to get to that point, is that it's going to take a lot of trust to be regained into the communities. And I'm not just talking about Black communities. I'm talking about the community that you reside in. It takes a lot of trust starting from there, you know, and just really learning your neighbors and learn if they're beneficial to participate in that village mentality or not. If they are beneficial, then by all means, have that village mentality. Y'all network with each other. If they're not, then it's just not gonna work with them.
Okay, so now I'm going to feature some of the comments that answered my question that kind of lit a large amount of the content for today. So I asked the question today, like I told you guys at the onset, why did you become a parent, right? So these are some of the responses that I got, right? I'm going to read a couple of them. Miscalculation of passion pumps. Not going to say his name. The next one, because I didn't stay home like I should have. That's from a female. The next one is from a male. Was running out of time. We first became parents at age 41. The next one is a female. Needed a true forever love and got it. The next one, it was an accident. Now, the needed true forever love was a female. The one that said it was an accident just now, it was a male. Okay? So, what are your thoughts?
I don't know what to say about that. At least they being transparent about it, being real about it. You know?
Yeah. I find that I get the most parent transparency on that page. Yeah. It's a whole mood.
Well, I do have to be transparent about this though. My now I have a total of 4 children. With three of them was with my my ex-wife, and one of them was from a lady where I did not expect to have a child from, but it just happened. So it was that was the 3 was planned, the 1 wasn't. Just to be honest with you, it wasn't planned, but I can understand, you know, their wrong point of view behind that, where hey, I shouldn't have did this. It's the wrong place, wrong time, you know, all these different things. I mean, I get it. But at the end of the day, we made our bed and we just have to sleep in it. That is the whole point of it. When you choose to procreate with someone, you have to sleep in the bed that you made in. It is what it is. Now, to this day, do I hate my youngest child? No, absolutely not. She's the best thing, just like the rest of her siblings, because I love children. But at the same time, it was my accountability. It was my responsibility that it happened that way. It is what it is. And I accept total responsibility for that. So basically, for everyone who's saying that, at the end of the day, you have to just take accountability for what it is. It is what it is. That is what it is. Take accountability for your actions. Period. You did it. You did it. Learn from it. And deal with your responsibility if you're able to do that.
So I have a question. Do you think that every person who didn't anticipate having kids, do you think that all of them, have or maintain that energy from a negative light? Or do you think that some of those people are kind of indifferent in general? I mean, because I feel like I'm a person that definitely I never thought that I would be a mother. I never thought that I would be a mother, not in a million years.
And you're very rare, because majority from my experiences, majority of the women want to have children. Majority of the women that I've experienced want to have children. They want to procreate. But the thing about it is that they want to make sure that they procreated with the right man, and that becomes the issue when they don't procreate with the right man. So let's say, for example, we're dating, and I'm giving you all these old false, unrealistic expectations, saying, "Yeah, girl, we're gonna get married. I'm gonna get you a house and a white picket fence and stuff like that." I'm telling you this, but in reality, I don't mean that, nor my actions make it happen. So you as a woman, you're like, okay, and you end up sleeping with me or whatever with these expectations. And that's what ended up happening, is that they get these expectations from this dude, then this dude don't want to commit to what he's saying. Then the next thing you know, the dude end up saying that, hey, I wasn't ready for these children because of XYZ reasons,
Mm-hmm.
So that's typically how it normally happens in most cases. That's how it happened.
So you think that most people become parents as a result of circumstance, just all of a sudden, just coincidence, circumstances were right, we were in a relationship, or we weren't in a relationship, we were doing this, you had some other kind of outcome planned, and then so you became parents?
Yeah, it's very possible. I do believe that.
Yeah.
I do believe that. Just like I say earlier with my situation, in my first marriage, yeah, it was absolutely planned. So yeah, in the other situation, it wasn't planned at all. And I believe that a lot of people could share that perspective with me as well, because there's some people who really did plan to be pregnant and really did plan to want to have children. Then there's others who just straight up didn't plan, but it just happened. They didn't plan for it, but they did the work to make it happen. So.
Well, the thing is, like, I guess I never thought that I would have children, because I'm like I'm just not. I'm a very goal driven person, and I'm more career oriented than anything. And so for me, that's kind of where my mind always has been. But I think that definitely makes for a great foundation for parents, right? And to be honest with you, like, I've had an opportunity to see how some of the people that I know, whether it's family members or friends, I've seen how they parent. And one of the questions was, how do you feel about discipline? That's a huge one, right? A huge component. So for me, in rearing my kids, I've had a lot of time to sit with what discipline looks like, even before I ever got there. And I had a great foundation, I feel, in establishing my ideals around what discipline would look like, and what I wanted my life with my kids to look like, and what I wanted my husband to look like, and things like that. And so everything is about outcomes for me, and I'm an outcome driven person, and I understand that most people are not outcome driven until they are forced to be. I
could agree to that.
Yeah. And so then when it becomes an important thing or a point of contention for them, we see people kind of put themselves in a certain level of alignment. I'm curious though how you feel about the outcomes component, and how you feel about the discipline piece, and then also how you feel like the school system role in cultivating the lives of the kids.
Well, that depends on the situation of the relationship between the parents. All right, it's so many layers to that we could take apart and dissect it. Now, let's look at the point of view that we're in a relationship. we seek to be married, we end up becoming married, then we end up having children together. That perfect scenario, right? Now, what's important behind that is that the concept about rearing your children, it have to be discussed, and they have to not only be discussed, and there have to be an understanding between both the mother and the father, because how the way the mother view rearing may be different how the way the father view rearing, and that's due to different situations. Like, say for example, they being brought up differently about rearing. The mother may be brought up with a different concept about rearing than the father. The father concept about rearing is being a straightforward authoritarian, where he's all in it, and he's on rearing, and and he don't want the mom to do no type of rearing whatsoever. He doing it. It could be likewise the mom is an authoritarian who's doing the rearing, and she don't want the father to be doing the rearing, but he does want the father to be a support system to the mom. So there's different situations that you could dissect behind that. Now, from my personal perspective about it, my personal experience behind it, now I believe that rearing is important, but it just depends on how far you take your rearing. That's why I say that. I don't believe in when we use the term rearing. I don't believe in doing things to cause physical harm to my children, which is like beating them. I don't agree to that concept, and I don't care. I know some of y'all would go and say in the Bible says you spare the rod, spoil the child. If you beat the child, it's not going to harm her. I don't care what the Bible say. I just don't agree with that. That you have to go into that extreme of rearing to do that with children. I believe that there are certain methods that you can do. They're just as effective with that. And I also believe that when you do things like that, that it creates future behavioral situations, and in the long run, where especially with boys becoming men, where they end up becoming abusive themselves into their relationships. So that's with that. But like, yeah, so like that's how I feel about rearing. So
Okay. So I feel like the disciplinary component, and I feel like the school system's role in rearing the kid, kind of, and cultivating the kid and whatever, I feel like those two play hand in hand. Because when we talk about discipline, the school system, for a lot of people in America, they put their kids in the public school system, and the public school system talks about a lot of things that are not conversations in the household. I think that children's primary mode of education comes from the parent or the family of origin.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, I think it should. I think that people should start having more expanded conversation with their kids, because the reality is you're sending your kids to school, and then when the school system is failing to teach a certain level of insight, world knowledge, whatever it is, you're getting upset with the school system, but the person that you should be upset with is yourself, because you're making those decisions. Mm-hmm. So I feel like the school system equally teaches kids about disciplinary means. They teach kids about abuse. They teach kids about all of the things that shape the foundation and cultivation of the child. And the parents feel like because the school system is doing this, they have no job and they have no place in these particular areas of life for this child. And it's interesting to me how parents take mindset. Huh?
Well, what led to them to feel that way? Because I don't understand that.
I don't know. Like, what I get from most parents that come into therapy that have been referred to me by DFACS, what I get from them is, well, they're teaching my kids that I can't whoop them anyway, so I can't discipline my kids. So there is a difference between disciplining your kid and abusing your kid.
Absolutely.
Abuse, and there is think about it. There's a difference in abusing your animals and disciplining your animals. All of that. Mm-hmm. So I think that people have this mindset that they have to be the end all be all in order to render discipline, proper discipline. Discipline is about, at the very precipice, the cusp of it. Discipline is about reshaping behaviors. Okay. Negative reinforcers are things that are undesired outcomes for people, but reinforce a behavior, or undesired things that reinforce a particular types of behavior. Positive reinforcement would be things that are desired outcome that reinforce behavior. So physical discipline can look a lot of different ways. Okay. And I'm not a person who doesn't believe in spanking, or they say whooping your kid. I don't have a don't whoop your kid context. I have a do not abuse your kid context. I feel like discipline should be tiered. Expectations and boundaries in life should be tiered, because that's the way, in reality, that's the way the world works. And I mentioned at the very onset of the conversation that parents are responsible for the cultivation of children, cultivation of people, human beings.
Hey, let me ask you a question. And, well, when you was going, when you was attending the school, right? Did your school system have paddling as a disciplinary method?
Oh yeah, I'm from the old school. Yeah, they had paddles.
Oh yeah. Mine's did also. We had paddling. They had us running laps, doing all kind of crazy stuff. That's a level of disciplinary.
Yeah, and in most
Situation.
countries, that's just a part of the, and then in other countries we pay for education too. But and that's how it is even now to this day in other countries, because physical discipline is essentially the way our world works. So we might not think about it in reality. We don't think about it like that when we see it rendered in justice systems. But if you think about it, what are some of the things that happen to a person when they become a prisoner?
So they wasn't disciplined at all, or lack thereof, or a certain type of discipline that led them to their imprisonment.
Right. And so what are some of the things that are used to decondition the mindset that they are without discipline?
There's different levels, or what we call corporal punishment.
Physical labor too.
Yeah, there's
Physical
different
labor
levels. Of it.
too. Right. So you're put to work, and that work is strenuous, extremely extenuating circumstances that you would not be in if you were a free person. If you had not done something to get yourself in this particular situation. Oftentimes you're doing physical labor, you're building things, you're lifting things, you're moving things. Your body is going to hurt, but it's meant to inflict pain. That's
absolutely.
That's the end game, because pain is an effective reinforcer for a certain type of behavior.
Yeah. Now the argument part of that is that people they don't want that type of level of discipline, because they feel that at the end of the day everyone is free, and they also feel that discipline or corporal punishment, any of these type of elements, it deals with a level of control. So they argue that, and so that's why they fought it against the school systems to take away paddling, because they felt like paddling was a form of abuse, or any other type of method for corporal punishment. They feel like that's a form of abuse towards the children, and it's not in the best interest of children. But my rebuttal on that is that I believe that spiritually, everything have to have balance. Everything have to have balance, including discipline. If you don't have discipline, and people's not going to have boundaries, so they could just do whatever they want to do. That they could go and murder your kid without any boundaries, or your children could be disrespectful to grown adults without any boundaries or any control or anything like that.
Right. And so the thing is, everybody is free until they're not. That's the world that you're cultivating these lives to be in. Mm-hmm. So you're not free if you break the rules. The world is shaped around boundaries. When you talk about rules or laws are rules. they should start in the home of origin. So if people go into society expecting nobody to manage them, expecting no systems to create boundaries, because that's what the vast majority of these entitled kids and young adults, that's how they think. There are lots of people well into their 30s who still maintain in their mind, like, you can't tell me shit. That's exactly what they say. Literally. I'm grown just like you. So the fact that you are an adult does not mean anything. The fact is, all people need healthy boundaries. And without boundaries, there is chaos. So physical discipline is a necessity on some level.
So Dr. J, I got to go back to it. I'm sorry, because you kind of threw yourself out there. So if that be the case, and this behavior is coming from these children, which we know that in most cases the children are resembling behaviors from their household, which are their parents. Now, back to what we was discussing earlier about the man and the woman. If we know that there are healthy boundaries before it's the leadership concern, then what's the whole concept about this equal thing when you know that at the end of the day the man is built to lead and the woman have to follow that man, and if that woman doesn't follow the man or follow his plan, then it's going to cause certain chaos. So where the woman had this attitude like, well, you can't tell me what to do. I'm an independent, strong Black woman. I'm do whatever. Then when she make that decision, it caused chaos within the household because she didn't want to listen. So how would you address that? Why are we still dealing with this?
So I don't agree with the whole equal thing. I think that everybody has an equally important role to play in the system, but I don't think the roles are equal because they're not. Because they're different roles, various different. Your position of leadership, everybody's responsible for leading in some capacity, right? And so you have a different role of leadership that is assigned to the position of the woman or the caretaker and primary caregiver. And then you have a different position that is assigned to the man. And in those systems, we were talking about the primary provider. Those are the roles in the system. And I am saying man and woman, but they can be used interchangeably. But of course, in Absolutely. Systems where it's 2 women or 2 men, etc. But that's why I wanted to, kind of clean that up to make it very clear and concise so people understand where I'm coming from. But there is not always chaos in a woman's discernment. If a woman if her discernment says that she needs to leave the system, there are a lot of people that you might tether yourself to. And I talked earlier about knowing when to cut off energy.
Absolutely.
You might sometimes, just because you think that this man is meant for you, does not mean that this man was meant for you. He might look like the man that was meant for you on the surface. He might, that mask might be on tight. You know what I mean? Like this wig looked like my hair, but it ain't. Okay? Right? So
you comfortable with saying that too, huh?
What? I'm just saying it's not like it totally isn't. The picture up there in the corner, that's my hair. You see the difference? You see the same face.
Yeah.
Different hair.
Yeah.
But, okay. So that man might look like he was meant for you. He might look like your forever husband. He might look like your lifetime, but he is not your lifetime. And so sometimes a woman has to discern when she finds herself in constant internal turmoil. That's because when I tell you that the woman is gifted with discernment, I'm telling you a woman was gifted with the gift of discernment. Her spirit is what moves her. As a result of her spirit moving her, it guides her to shape and cultivate situations where her husband leans and depends on the information that she collects in her journey of discernment that is meant for the cultivation and the fruition of their relationship together. And as a result of that discernment that he gets from her discernment, he makes wise choices to lead the entire system. So if a woman finds herself in a disconnect with following that man's guidance, it's either because she's not been leading from her position, or that man is not the man that she was meant to submit to, because submission is not a hard thing. People want to talk about it like it is. Like you hear these women in the hood talking about, oh, a man ain't gonna lead me nowhere. I ain't gonna be following him because he ain't this and he ain't that. You may not follow that man because that man is not meant for you. You may not see value in that man because that man is not meant for you. And that's why I was saying I can't pay for the type of advice that Kevin Samuels has, because I feel like, although I feel like there is value in what Kevin Samuels says, I feel like there is value in everything that every person on this planet has to offer to a conversation for somebody. Kevin Samuels was not made for me. Mm-hmm. He was not. And I was not made for him. So that's the reason I have a problem with the way he delivers his message, because he thinks that that message is meant for every single woman, and the way that he values these women weighs more than the way that they value themselves. That is my only problem with Kevin Samuels, okay? Mm-hmm. So a person's perspective has more importance than your perspectives on their life journey. It does, because they're the ones that are going to continue in the behaviors that they have or not, because it's their decision to make. So it's important that when you are advising a person, you advise that person from, this is my position of what your situation entails, okay? So that's that part. So if a woman fails to follow a man and she decides that she needs to be going somewhere else, and she decides to go somewhere else, I would hope that woman is smart enough, wise enough, and has enough intuition to know that she is in the wrong situation, and she removes herself from the presence of that man in its entirety in a way that is beneficial to the entire system, to where she can still pay homage and respect to that man, because at the end of the day, they built something for the time that they've been together. They have added value to one another in a way that is conducive for them during that time that they built together. So as you go forward and you take yourself into another situation, do not discredit this man. Discredit your process, whatever that was that led to your level of discernment that said that he was in the first place. You can never submit to somebody that you are not naturally inclined to submit to. That is the problem. Women are trying to force situations that are not meant to be. Men are trying to force situations that are not meant to be, because they feel like, as that guy said on that post, I was running out of time. Time is of no consequence when we're talking about destiny. You're destined to be with somebody in some space. It might not be your time. Mm-hmm. That may not be your somebody. Life is about learning. If you are paying attention, you will learn lessons over your experiences and exposures that life yields to you that will position you in the right spot at the right time with the right energy. And that is just what it is. You have to allow it to manifest as it will. You cannot force it. Like, that is not your job. Not a woman's job. It's not a man's job. It's not their friend's job. It's not their mama's job. It's nobody's job. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so when that thing happens for you, it's automatic. Submission is an automatic thing. There is no struggling with it. Ever. I've never had to struggle with submitting to a man. Never. Never. And I'm a strong, positive alpha woman that's always had her own everything. And I've never had to find myself in direct confrontation with a man over ideals. That's not my position. And that's not my job. I will not argue with a man. If he thinks that it's his job to be where he is, who am I to lead him elsewhere? It's only my job to present you with the information, sir. You can leave it or you can take it. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be angry either way, because that's not my business. That's me minding your business. I mind the business that minds me. I lead from the position in which I'm responsible for leading from. I cannot step into a man's plane and decide to guide and shape and put this ship into and to anchor and park it nowhere. The vessel is not mine to lead. It's just not. It's not.
Yep. Yeah. So in that perspective, will you still trust his decision? If he make a certain decision and he act on it?
If I'm submitting to a man, whatever decision he makes, I'm going to follow. There will be no question. Ever. Even if I doubt that he's making the right decision, I'm going to follow, just like I had 100% confidence in him when I submitted. And if he fails, I have failed. And if he succeeds, I have succeeded. And whatever the outcome is, I'm responsible for building on that platform from there on. So if he fails, that means I am now responsible for collecting information that will support him as we pick ourselves up and we go into the next phase of life, where he now is taking that failure as his first attempt and learning the lessons that he was meant to learn from that experience, so that we can now position ourselves to win. Because there is nobody who wins without understanding what it looks like to have to move into defeat.
Yeah, and this is gonna go with Matt Mills' comment too about the about fear. Now there are situations where it could be the woman or it could be the man too. Be both for that matter.
Yeah,
They could personally they'll submit to whatever's happening, but they will personally sabotage the situation to cause it to fail, so they could go back and say, hey, I told you to follow my intuition and you didn't want to do it. And a lot of situations, that's what men deal with women who have that type of mentality, that they will purposely sabotage the situation. They'll pretend that they're going to follow, but at the end of the day, they'll sabotage it. They go back and say, yeah, you should have followed me, and belittle that man. I don't agree with that.
That's emasculation. That's emasculation. And so I think that essentially when a man fails, his failures are yours. And essentially you have to, it's a waiting game. Like the woman's position is one that requires a significant degree of patience. Okay. And I'm not a patient person. Okay. Period. But if I can find it within me,
I think
patient enough.
You're a selective patience. It depends on the situation for you to be patient.
No, I don't see. I'm an outcomes-driven person, so I rely on intuition, spiritual guidance, and hindrance in certain spaces to guide me and position me in the proper spaces that I'm supposed to be in. So for me, patience is not something that I typically lean towards. When it comes to my relationship, and when it comes to my business decisions, I'm successful because I am patient with that process, because it commands me to sit down and wait, because you have no other choice. I'm not in control of that. The only thing that I'm in control of is the level of discernment that I have when I'm going through and doing my self-reflection, and I'm looking at the life's lessons that have been yielded before me, and I'm trying to figure out which one to apply here or there, right? So that's the only thing I control. For me, I'm a person that believes in healthy boundaries, and I'm going to make sure that those boundaries are set based off of pragmatics. I don't move off of emotion. Emotion doesn't move me. It doesn't. You could be a whole sob story, and I'm still driven to the outcomes. So if you tell me you want me to help you heal, I'm here for it. And I guarantee you it's going to happen.
But why your emotions don't move you? That's kind of
emotions
unnatural.
Don't move me. It has to make sense. Things have to make sense. I'm about pragmatics. Emotional regulation is the key to succeeding in life. You have to be able to understand what's motivating those emotions that are presenting. What are the feelings that you feel that make you think you're having this particular emotion? And then identify your primary emotion. That requires time. So if you move off of your first note of emotion, you're going to make a bad move every single time. Every single time. You might not be able to see that it was a bad move until later down the road, but you're gonna realize that you made the wrong move. It's a game of chess.
Yeah.
Understand? So you have to recognize what it is at its core in order to make a conscientious decision that requires patience. That's why I was telling you, I am not a patient person, but let me tell you, I will slow down when it comes to the game of my relationships, the game of my life, my business decisions, because I need to know exactly what that outcome is going to be driven towards. You understand what I'm saying? I need to know the core. I need to be able to sit and really assess what is this really about. If I'm triggered on an emotional level, you can guarantee there will be no action as a result of it. That's why I talk about discipline, and there's a difference between discipline and abuse. You cannot discipline from a place of emotionality. There has to be an end to the means. So you cannot expect for your emotions to be resolved in rendering physical discipline to a person, because you're in a different place. Where there is emotion brain and it's in control, there is no pragmatics or cognition in the brain. We know that. Science has taught us that. And that's how the brain behaves. That's how the human should behave. You should operate from a level of discernment. Period. Figure out what you're going through. Figure out what really triggered you. Figure out what's really there as a result of you being triggered by the thing. And as a result of that, then move, because you made a conscientious decision as to what makes more sense for the situation, given the real facts, right? And so for me, I can't move like based off of emotion. I just can't. It's been a lot of men in my life that I have loved deeply. And if I moved off of emotion, I would have been married 300 times. Love doesn't move me. It has to make sense. I have to see that there will be no pull in the idea of submission. I have to see that your ideals align with mine. I have to see that we're not going to be physically abusing one another. I have to see that we're not going to be blocking one another from achieving autonomy in life. I have to see that we're not going to be taking value from instead of adding value to one another. I have to be able to see all of this. No. You love me, so what? So does a million other people.
You sound like one of them zodiac signs. Which one of them that have resemblance behavior?
I'm a Cancer. I'm not moved off of emotion. That don't mean anything to me.
You're a Cancer?
Cancer.
Cancers is one of the emotional
right.
Zodiac signs besides Pisces.
Just because we have emotions doesn't mean it motivates our behaviors.
Oh.
Two different things. Now, I've dated a Cancer man, and I can definitely agree with you. He was extremely emotional reactive. I was like, yeah, this ain't going to work. This ain't going to work in no way, shape, form, or fashion. But
yeah, because I'm a Pisces though, so I know, we the balance of all the zodiacs, so I know. But
life has to be the balance. Life has to be the balance, and to be honest with you, if I had to kind of put it all into one, for me, I've always been a hothead, right? And so the thing is, I was moved by emotion when I was young, and I had to learn. Life taught me that wasn't it. In the aftermath of certain traumas for me, watching somebody massacre my brother in front of me and him dying in my arms, that's what slowed me down, because there are a lot of things that I could have done in that situation.
Yeah, my condolences about that, by the way.
Right. Oh, it's fine. It's fine. I'm so far removed from that trauma and the way that it affected me then, and I'm in a whole different place because I learned from it. It taught me a lesson. I'm not gonna lie, it took a while to teach me a lesson. It took me a while, you know what I mean? And it took a while for it to come full circle. That's why I tell people, like, you have to notice how you move, why you move, and then you will come to a place where you're forced to become your own force of reckoning for your own maturation and growth out of these situations, because you will learn that, oh, wait, I can't move like that. I can't respond like that, because that's going to put me in a compromising position. If that had not happened to me, because I look at everything that happens in life as, it happens for a reason. Had I not had that experience, when I lost my best friend in combat in front of me, similar situation, but much worse, I would have become totally unglued. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Totally unglued. However, I was able to operate from a means of pragmatics. Okay, and I was still able to go ahead and accomplish the end goal and then get back to managing the emotion of the loss and dealing with that in the aftermath. But had I come unglued, then I'd be dead too. So life will teach you lessons. When I tell people, like, you don't understand the intensity of it, I've had to learn it myself. Life will put you in places and render you experiences that will give you what you need for situations later on in life. You have to choose to pay attention. Sit down, look at your actions, look at where they lead you to. Find out whether or not that was really the most conducive opportunity for you, right? Because it doesn't mean that it doesn't yield fruit. Because some of our responses can yield great fruit, right? But it doesn't mean that that was the most conducive situation for us. And then when we look at what our outcomes could have been had it been a different response from us, we understand that maybe there is a bigger lesson in our experiences, in what we're cultivating and shaping in life. And as a result, we move differently. Parenting has to be something that we do from a place of pragmatics. What makes sense? What is our end game? If your end game as a parent is to fulfill the duty that you have as a parent, you have one job. One job. And I told you guys, if y'all watched the show yesterday, I told this girl, you had one job, just one. Regardless of what life puts you through, you had one job on this earth as a parent. And that was to help shape and cultivate the mind of this person. God only gave you one. Only one. Right? One in this whole scheme of this person's conditioning gave you one job and one person to do it with over the course of 18 years. All you had to do was cultivate, render this person what they needed to survive in this world, because that's what you're responsible for. You're responsible for cultivating, shaping personalities that will one day function as independent contributors in this world that we all live in. That's your one job as a parent. One. Oh, well, I had certain men in my life that did this. Who made those decisions?
Mm-hmm.
Who's responsible for the men that you had in your life? More importantly, who is responsible for the certain men you had in your child's life? You understand what I'm saying? So these are the deeper issues. I think that Black women have to take accountable for the decisions that they make that lead to the atrocities in the cultivating of toxic masculinity in these young men. I think that we have to take accountability for the situations we put our children in, because our perceptions are limited as to what our resources are. I think that we have to make conscientious decisions and do our own self-exploration and find out what it is that drives our lack of accountability and our lack of insight into our lives and our situations when we're out here and we're saying that we need these bags, but we can't pay a car insurance or a car note. We need these nails done, but we can't pay for therapy. We need these wigs or these weaves, but we can't pay for our kids to go to daycare. You understand what I'm saying? There are things. There are so many levels to this. And, you know, for me to also piggyback off of what he said, a woman can block a man's leadership because of fear. A woman can never, ever, ever block a man leading. A man has to do that. She can never block him leading. She can't do that. That's not her job, and she has no weight in the grand scheme of things. If a man is leading from his position as a man, he will continue to lead whether somebody is there to follow or not. Because the reality is you have to continue to push forward. As a man, the Black men in the community have to take accountability on this one. As a man, if a woman fails to follow your guidance, you have to ask yourself, what is it about my leadership style? What is it about my delivery? What is it about me leading in general that is preventing this woman that I have found? Because you're responsible for finding that woman, remember?
Mm-hmm.
I ain't letting y'all off now. You heard me get on these women. Your job is to find that woman. So if you truly found you a wife and you found your good thing, then why is it that your wife is failing to follow your lead? That means that you truly didn't find your good thing. Reposition yourself, sir.
Yeah, Yeah, I could get that because at first I was going to rebuttal off of it too. I started really listening to what you were saying, and you brought it home about us finding it. Now, if we are trying to find a wife and we know right off the bat this is the behavior that she's resembling, then we have to question ourselves to why are we with that woman to begin with in the first place if she have a problem with leadership. I think I mentioned this on when we did a podcast before. I had this mentality that I want to be this captive savior woman type of thing that I felt like I needed to fix them.
Mhm.
I believe that some men, not all men, but I believe that some men be trying to fix that woman and be thinking that they didn't fix that woman, then enter into a marriage with that woman. They only come to find out that you didn't fix nothing about her. She just complied with whatever it is that she was doing just to get to a certain point in her life, you know. And so you have to you have to question that within yourself, like why did you choose that woman who don't want to follow your leadership to begin in the first place?
But see, and this is kind of going to go to Kel's comment. That's why I pulled it back up. So the thing is this, right? As you said that in your finding that wife, right? You felt like there was some level of rebuttal there. Before
it was, but hey, now once when I understood where you was going with it.
Yeah, but the thing is this. Just because you mentioned in your response that you didn't see those things in the beginning, there is a reason you don't see those things.
Really? You gonna take a Snapple break?
Oh yeah, always. I love this peach drink. Ever fresh, actually. But a man's job is to find a woman, and I talked about a woman being gifted with discernment and not the man, right? Mm-hmm. So how can a man properly find a woman if he's not gifted with discernment? That also boils that back down to the woman. A man's job is to find, search. He's the hunter, the gatherer. Why do you think men innately just look at all women and then just keep looking? Dang, she fine. Oh, she fine too. Ooh, Miss Lady. You know what I mean? In the same day, a man could go out there and catcall to 100 women. They go to a club, put a man in a club, and he's in a room full of very, very nice looking women, and he's going to shoot his shot at least 50 times. Especially if he's on his game and he's searching. Okay? So ask yourself, why is it that a man acts this way? And a woman, however, positions herself to be that woman that is selected, not only physically, right, and approached by that man, but also mentally. Why are the behaviors of women and men innately different, even if we don't condition them that way? Because it's like that in children too.
Well, that goes back to what I was saying earlier, especially you mentioned about the catcalling thing. That goes back to what I was saying earlier about his process of choosing. Now,
but he's not choosing. He's threatening.
Yeah, well, me personally, I'm more of a observer. I observe before I approach. I observe, the behavior. I observe everything that woman's doing, especially when she's in her social gathering, especially when she's with her friends. Because throughout my observation, I observe that a woman is very transparent when they're with somebody who they're familiar with and comfortable with. So I observe their behavior, observe everything that they're doing, and that would give me the decision if I'm going to approach her or not. But just like you said earlier, some men, they don't look at it in that point of view. They look at it as this beautiful woman, I'm finna shoot my shot. Instead of really, really trying to, as you say, trying to discern that woman, trying to figure out everything about her, observe everything about her before even, initiate or approach.
Okay. So let's bring this thing home real quick. So in your observations of these women that you find yourself observing the behaviors of, if you had to be 100% transparent, let's put yourself in the club where there are multiple women to observe.
I've been in the club, turn up.
How do you find that one woman that you're going to observe without seeing, noticing, observing the other women?
Well,
you notice them all.
Yeah, just to be transparent from my experience dealing with that, it always starts with the initial look, because at the end of the day, men are visual. We see something visual, that's what's going to attract us to that woman. Mm-hmm. So in my situation, the very first thing I'm going to see is visualization. And I'm not talking about her overall body. Me personally, the very first thing I see, even in the club, is her face. How the way she's carrying herself, how the way she's smiling, how the way she's laughing, enjoying, having a good time with her friends. That's why I observe her, the very first thing right off the bat. Then the second thing for me is more body. Then as I'm observing that, just because I'm looking at her, her face and her body, that's not going to immediately make me go and approach her. What it's going to do is going to trigger me to observe her even more. To like, okay, let me observe her anymore, observe her more to see what she's about. So this may sound weird or creepy, but what I would do, I would approach more into the space that she's at without her knowing that I'm in the space that she at, without looking creepy. Being in the space that she has, so I can hear the conversations that she's having with her friends. Once when I hear the conversations, that's general conversations that she having with her friends stuff. And if I find that the conversation is more, similar to my personal views, then that's when I go and approach her and actually try to initiate a conversation with her. But that doesn't mean.
It's the same process for most men, though. So, in your observations, there are other women around. You're noticing other women. Your observations of this woman have honed in because you're still in the process of finding your good thing. So, let's say that you find your way over and you give your phone number to this woman, right? Mm-hmm. And then you go on a date with this woman, and then at the end of the day, she's like, you know what? I really like the conversation we had. We should do this again. For you, you're going to go and you're going to make another date with her because you've already decided in your mind when you found her that she was worthy of finding. Absolutely. She is the person that actually does the choosing, though. Because if she decided to chime in a different way and say, you know what, I enjoyed the conversation, but I just feel like we're just not a good fit.
Yeah. And
that's choosing whether you want to continue with her or not.
Yeah, and that happened to me before, where we made it to that next phase, and at the end of the day, she said, "Hey, you're a really good person, but you're just not fit for me," which that is very valid, and I believe that a lot more women need to have that mentality too. Like, hey, even though this guy is probably be a good guy, he may be a 6-figure guy or wherever the case may be. But if he's not connected to you every way, including spiritually as well, then you need to cut that off because he's not for it. As you say, he's not for you, and you don't need to push it to make it work.
And the reality is this, we are people who will try anything one time. So our tries, our attempts, right, are one thing, but it's not the same experience for us if we do not allow ourselves or be permissive with ourselves to be honest with ourselves about the things we're trying or our experiences. So I think that women will sometimes in this generation of women will sometimes see that there are several men that are after them, and then they'll go ahead and they'll give each one of those men a chance. They're going to go out on dates with all of them. I talked to the effect of having been in this group and responsible for their interviews and stuff when it comes to dating of other doctors. And some of those female doctors in there, and I'm not going to give energy to the one that came to mind first because that makes the most sense. But some of them, the single ones that have never been married, let me talk about them. Some of them believe in multi-dating, dating multiple men. Whatever man comes, however many comes their way and want to take them on a date, they're going to go on a date with them. Doesn't matter who they're dating throughout the week. They'll have a date with this guy this day, that the other one scheduled for the next day, and all of that. They're going to follow through, regardless of how much they click with the first guy or the second guy. They're going to continue to date all of those guys until one guy makes it up in his mind that he wants to propose or wants to be whatever. In the meantime, they could be having sex with these different people and all of that good stuff. What if you get pregnant? Ew. But those are the things that I'm thinking to myself. But no. But the thing is this: you feel like you can go out here and have the position of the man in choosing, right? People to put in front of yourself to discern. But the reality is you can't properly discern if you got all of those different energies entering into your emotion center, your body. You can't make a wise decision. And if you've got all of those guys in circulation and all of them are thinking that he may have found an ideal woman in you, what does that say for the outcome when you have to dismiss these guys, right? And now they have a negative view of women in general because of their experiences with you. And then that leads to the toxic masculinity that they now present with as they move into their future dating encounters with other women, because that's the reality of it. That's why I say about accountability, and it all comes full circle to the discernment of a woman. She is responsible for choosing, but she has to choose wisely. Because if she chose a man that she was a misfit for, she knew beforehand. If she chose to engage in sex with a man that leads to the cultivation of a life, and she becomes pregnant, she knew that she could get pregnant because she's responsible. She got to make sure she buys her sanitary items every month. She knows she has a period. She knows she's menstruating, right? She should know when she's ovulating as well. These are basic things that females know, and they're already conditioned way before men are even into that level of maturation. And so a woman has to take responsibility for her role in these situations unfolding like they do.
Yeah, the only issue I have with that scenario is when the woman wastes the man's time when she know obviously that the dude is a misfit for, but she decides to waste his time by going out on a date, not just one date, but several dates with him, and have this expectation that the man's supposed to pay for these dates and different things like that. Then come at the end of the week, well, after reviewing this, you're not a good fit. Well, you should have said that over a cup of coffee.
Right. Not even the end of the week. After a whole year. A whole year, 2 years, 3 years. Like, you're wasting people's time out here. And then the ladies get mad and want to say that men ain't shit. But the reality is they ain't shit. So if you're not shit, then how can a man be shit? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and just like you say, and that corrects a negative behavior with the men, because that scenario actually happened to me at one point in time where I was doing that, and normally what I do is that I build upon the dates, meaning that when we're initially talking, I don't do expensive dates when we're initially talking. We're going to do something simple, like go out for a cup of coffee. We're going to do something simple for the simple fact that I'm establishing communication with the woman. I'm building a rapport with each other. We're building that type of foundation. So we're moving up to that level of, actual, full day where, I splurge on her. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to be wasting my time nor my resource, because it could be going towards my children or, any other resources as well. But that actually happened to me where I spent all that time with a woman, did all this, then come at the end of the day, oh, yeah, you're a nice guy. I appreciate you taking me out and doing these things that I want to do, but, I'm just not interested in you. And so it created a negative behavior with me, like, man, if she's like this, then every woman is like this. So I immediately established that guard within myself. But at the end of the day, I went back and held my own self accountable as well, because I allowed the situation to happen, because I could have obviously seen that it could have been certain signs that she was putting out there that she wasn't interested. I could have asked certain triggering questions to push it out of her to see if she was interested in me or not, based on communication.
Of course not. Let me tell you something. I told you already, the woman is responsible for discernment. So I'm not going to give any grace to any woman out there playing games with men. So at the end of the day, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter if nobody taught her how to date. A woman knows when she's interested in a man. She knows when she's vested in a man. She knows when she's vested in more than one man. So the BS around being able to pull things out, you can't pull anything out of a woman that she's not willing to give. Here's the thing, in relationship, as a relationship therapist, right? I'm a marriage and family therapist, people. I see everything when it comes to relationships and people, men, women, women and women, and men and men, all of it. Okay. Polyamorous relationships, all of them. People are going to be who they're going to be. It doesn't matter who you are. They're still going to continue to be who they are. You have to decide to remove yourself from them if you don't want their imprints of who they are to imprint on you in such a way that makes you toxic. So if you're not sure about whether or not that person has the intent to continue on with you in an exclusive manner, you need to remove yourself, because there are indicators, conversations that woman should be having with you, initiating with you at the point where she is really interested and really feeling vested, that let you know that she's ready for you to pop the question, because she's ready to move into a different place. The problem is, the reality is this: courtship is something that has declined in relationships. So where the man has an opportunity to really get to know a woman, that piece is now missing from the puzzle. You know how to vet, so you know how to look for the right person that might be a good fit for you to date. You know how to date. You know how to go on multiple dates and go out and talk to a person, but you're not talking about the things you need to be talking about that will solidify the courtship of your relationship. So you know that you are exclusive, because people are afraid of rejection. That's the reality. And you feel like having and asking the tough questions that lead to the exclusivity of your bond with a person and position you in places to really build with the person, that's going to get you rejected. And that's fine. If it gets you rejected, please thank everybody, the universe, God, the heavens, whatever you believe in, for continuing you on your course and preventing you from wasting your time, because that means that it was time for you to move on anyway, but you weren't smart enough to discern that in the beginning.
Yeah.
So, men, you only have the ability, your mental capacity can only focus on selecting women based off of aesthetics and the potential for the aesthetics, and then their body language and all the other stuff that comes afterward becomes a plus or a minus. But either way, your first conceptualizations goes very, very much back to the basic cusp of Kevin Samuels and his mindset. How much you weigh? What's your dress size? Right? He's spot on. He's spot on as far as what draws the immediate gratification of attention for a man. However, he's not spot on as to what it takes to keep a healthy relationship or to cultivate or select a proper partner, which is why Kevin Samuels is still single. You understand what I'm saying? That's why I talk about it's too many men following him. Men are not supposed to follow. Men are supposed to lead. If you're leading and you see a man that is the example of what it is that you aspire to be in life, you don't follow that man. You allow that man to mentor you through the way that he lives his life and the way that he advises you, but you lead still from the position of authority, understanding that now, because you are a single man, this man that you are allowing to mentor you is guiding and shaping and cultivating you as your woman will when she is now your compass. So if that person's giving you further insight, that will play into the decisions that you're going to make. But it doesn't mean that you follow him.
I agree to that. And matter of fact, I'm getting ready to pretty soon do a show about this man spirit thing that's going on, because it got to a point where it became a Kevin Samuel cult now. So I really do want to address that, because interesting.
And the manosphere, did you watch that one video? You got to watch it. You got to watch it because, oh boy. I have a show coming up on this one. I'm going to send you the video that I'm talking about.
Yeah, send because I've been researching about the manosphere for almost a month now.
They had a whole meeting. It was a whole conference.
Oh, really?
It was a real thing. They invested thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
To Kevin Samuels or for the movement?
It's the manosphere thing. It's a thing. It's a red pill, blue pill. It's a thing. It's a thing. You know, the MGTOW movement has taken over. And a lot of people don't know that's where your manosphere came from. The MGTOW movement.
Yeah. That's when I was doing my research about it. That's why I'd seen where it was coming from. I was looking at one of Tommy Sotomayor shows, and he was speaking a lot about the manosphere because that was on going against him and about him talking about Kevin Samuels. So I was trying to figure out, well, was he talking about the manosphere? I never heard of that a day before in my life. So that's what made me start researching about it. And when I researched about it, I'm like, what the heck? What kind of mess is
Mad
this?
Militant, I know, right? Like I have still not watched a full length show of Kevin Samuels. I can't.
Yeah. But yeah, I seen it because Tommy Sotomayor, he was having different men come on there to defend Kevin Samuels. And every single time they jumped on there, they were saying, we got to protect Kevin Samuels by any means necessary. I'm like, what? By any means necessary? Like, that's crazy. They literally made this dude into a god.
No, they made him into their women. So a man's responsibility as a leader is to protect and provide for his woman and his family because it is of his woman. Like when a man can say those words in regard to another man, there is a problem. I don't care how many times you guys loop this thing, make it into a meme, whatever the fuck you're gonna do. When a man does that, that is a problem. Ladies, please wake up. Like, I think that it's such a toxic place for so many of these women to date now. As a result of, like I said, the whole cycle between the men and the women failing one another, that this is just crazy. It's gotten out of hand and I'm over it. Like, no. I'm going to go out there and pick it. Let me go make me some signs. Yeah. And of course, the sun can't be out, but yeah.
I'm wondering if Kevin Samuels aware of the manosphere and what they're doing, they actions towards him, that they reverence him like that.
Yes, he just talked about it in an interview with DJ Vlad.
Oh, he did? Yeah, I got to check that out too.
Yeah.
And he acknowledged that and he's cool with that?
I don't know. I can't remember what he said because I watched because the thing about Vlad's interview with him, he chopped it up into several 5-minute, 4-minute and something segments, and things like that. So it was watchable for me. And I watched a couple of the clips. I still didn't watch the full interview.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on YouTube watch on.
I can only stomach Kevin Samuels in small amounts. Tommy Sotomayor, I have never watched a full length view of anything that he has ever put out. I know that when he first started his movement, when he first really took off, it was because he was a part of the group that I was a part of called Black Men Being Brutally Honest with Everyone on Facebook. Mm-hmm. He took off then. So I was there for that. And I would see him comment and things like that. And I just was there because I want Black men to feel safe in spaces where they're able to truly express themselves. But what I noticed is that it went from being that kind of space to a very toxic space. I never removed myself. I'm still a member in both of the groups, 3 of them, however many they got. But I just don't, for me, I will not entertain foolishness from men or women. I feel like people got to grow up and their entire kids. Like you're out here having a temper tantrum because you're pissed off at women for not being what you expected them to be. But at the same time, you need to hold yourself accountable because you have no boundaries. You had none then, you have none now. So it boils down to self-control, like Kel's comment said. That's why I went back to it. People have to have self-discipline. You have to start with yourself. You have to monitor yourself respectively. There are things that you have to do for yourself as a person. And I feel like the culture and the society that we live in does not support adequately doing that. And real quick before we get off, like, I'm going to share this with you guys. And it's a lot. And I want you guys to give me, I told you I was going to bring it full circle about that whole parental role and everything like that. I want y'all to give me your perspectives on this Blue's Clues Pride Parade single.
Oh, that. Oh.
Like, oh.
Go ahead.
It's going to be a rough one. Now, I talked about parents. I'm not sure how many people that are watching right now or are parents, right? But I want you guys to go ahead and do a big push. Share this video real quick. Like, share. And let's get some people on to have this conversation.
Hey, Blue, look at all these families. Hi, families. It's time for a pride parade. Families marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. This family has two mummies, they love each other so proudly, and they all go marching in the big parade. Families marching two by two, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching two by two, hurrah, hurrah. This family has two daddies, they love each other so proudly, and they all go marching in the big parade. Come on, friends. Families marching three by three, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching three by three, hurrah, hurrah. These papas are non-binary, they love each other so proudly, and they all go marching in the big parade. Families marching four by four, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching four by four, hurrah, hurrah. Trans members of this family all love each other so proudly, and they all go marching in the big parade. Come join the fun. Families marching five by five, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching five by five, hurrah, hurrah. Some people choose their family. They love each other so proudly, and they all go marching in the big parade. Families marching six by six, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching six by six, hurrah, hurrah. Ace, Vi, and Pan, grown-ups, you see, can love each other so proudly, and they all go marching in the big parade. Oh yeah! Families marching seven by seven, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching seven by seven, hurrah, hurrah. All families are made differently, they love each other so proudly, and they all go marching in the big parade. Families marching eight by eight, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching eight by eight, hurrah, hurrah. This house is a family of kings and queens, they love each other so proudly, and they all go marching in the big parade. Let's celebrate. Families marching nine by nine, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching nine by nine, hurrah, hurrah. Allies to the queer community can love their queer friends so proudly, and they all go marching in the big parade. Families marching 10 by 10, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching 10 by 10, hurrah, hurrah. Love is love is love, you see, and everyone should love proudly, and we'll all go marching in the big parade. Wow! Thanks, Blue. Happy Pride Month.
You can ask your parents to subscribe to Nick Jr.'s Blue's Clues and You YouTube channel for new videos.
So,
I ain't gonna lie, I was on gigging to it. It is so the hook is so catchy. I can see why they use that, because the children they'll catch on that so quick and be dancing to that. Don't even know what they're talking about, but the hook is fire though. I ain't gonna lie.
I mean, I think they did a good job in putting it together and composing it, right? So when we think of where we are as a community, for those of you who watched it, and for those of you who have kids, for those of you who are parents, what do you think? Like, what are your thoughts after watching this? Like, because there are some, you know, and you know,
I'm gonna give my now this is my honest opinion about this, not my perspective, but straight up honest opinion. Why is it if this group want equality, why they don't include heterosexual relationship into their agenda if it's all based on equality?
there you go. That's exactly, that was my only point about this video. So here is the reality, people. We are in a society right now, right? We're evolving. America is making the most interesting of its evolutionary shift since slavery, segregation, post-segregation. Yeah. So since after following segregation, this is going to be the biggest evolutionary shift that is made in this country. So whether we like it or not, whether you are a person that is pro selection of gay, trans, bi, whatever, right? It's happening. It's happened. People are who they are, and people are going to be who they are going to be. I want to call you guys' attention back, and I know a lot of you people that are viewing now are very young, quite young, and I'm not going to teach a history lesson because I don't have time, but I'm going to say this. Post-segregation was a time that was very difficult for both sides, for blacks and for whites in America, for a couple of reasons. Black people enjoyed their individuality. They enjoyed their spaces where they were able to not include whites as they grew and they became successful and independent entities as a culture of folks. White people enjoyed the fact that they did not have to become they did not have the fact of, or they enjoyed the fact that they did not have to be confronted with the realities of the successes of the blacks that are coming out of slavery, building and becoming what they're going to become in front of them, right, in an abrasive fashion. So they could do what they do and do it away from them, right? You can be free, just go on, be about your business, right? And now, Black people are some of the people that are the most frustrated about this transition. And I got to be honest with you, white people aren't as opposed to it because they've been through it twice. They've been through it twice. So when I say they've been through it twice, it was a different experience for blacks post-segregation and post-slavery because they were on the receiving end of the entitlement. And so even though you guys don't want to accept the realities of it all, you know, whites had to have their world that they knew as they saw it in that space, as they believed it to be, forced into something else. And so people, again, whites, blacks, all alike, are having to have this shift forced into their reality. And the reality is this: people are entitled to be who they will be. People are entitled to become whatever version of themselves they deem fit because they've done their own self-exploration. People should be able to have the right to choose in a free country, especially their sexuality, their gender identity, all of these things. And the world around them should accept them for who they are. The only problem I had with this video is that, of course, it's made for kids because kids are the point of contention when it comes to shaping new behaviors in a world that is reductive or rejective of the types of ideals that you're trying to press. So if you want a different tomorrow, you have to start with the people that are responsible for leading tomorrow. That's going to be your children. So if you want to decondition racism, you have to start with the way that you move in front of your kids, not what you say to your kids, but you have to change the way that you move in front of your kids. So a lot of people, like these young people in this day and age, if you are in the age group of from 25 to 40, I'm talking about you. Your parents created the racism that is inside of you. You have absolutely no idea about those people's plights and how difficult it was for them. You never will, because it wasn't your plight. You didn't live during slavery, didn't have any direct confrontation with people that did. And so the realities are these things right here. That's vicarious trauma. Your parents conditioned it based on the way that they interacted with people that look different from them. And you learned to look at people looking at you in a certain way from the way that they taught you to innately. They never had to say anything. Same thing has to happen in this instance. If we stop looking at people awkwardly when they are gay, non-binary, trans, and things like that, then so will the kids. So will they. If we look like it's not a problem, it won't be a problem. If we move like it's a problem, it won't be a problem. If we teach our kids it's not a problem and everything is an inclusive component in this world, then that is how these kids will be reared, and that's how they will go forward thinking. And so the problem I had with this is that I watched it all the way through and I'm like, oh, yeah, cool, yeah. You know, where are the straight people?
Mm-hmm.
So are we getting rid of the straight people? But then I thought about it. Look at where we are now. Black people want to get rid of the white people.
So there are issues with this that I have. The first issue that I have with this is that the issue of acceptance. Now, once again, everyone have the human right to live their lifestyle however they want to live with it. That's their choice. They could do that. They could do whatever they want to do. They could, if they want to be an heterosexual, homosexual, whatever sexual, whatever that you want to be, that's their choice. If they want to sleep with a pillow and make it be their husband or wife, that is their absolute choice. They can do that. It is fine. Do it. But however, the issue that I have with it is the push of acceptance of it. If you accept that and I don't accept that, then just understand that I just don't accept it and accept that. It's just that simple. But the issue is that we're trying to push so hard into acceptance. We're trying to push so hard to accepting that heterosexual relationship is the way they need to go due to procreation issues, due to religious issues, or however they like. We're trying to push also on the other end that homosexual relationship is the way to go in certain issues. We're trying to push this thing and trying to push acceptance, trying to push this whole issues of acceptance. If I don't agree with you, it's fine. I just don't agree with it. And you're not going to force acceptance of me agreeing with something that I just don't agree with. It's not going to happen, period. Same way. Either situation, if a person who's into that LGBT movement, they're strong in it and they believe strongly about it, fine, it's cool. But you cannot push someone to accept you. Because what are you doing is that you're taking away from their human experience, period. When you do that. And it goes along with racism too, as well. You know, at the end of the day, we try to push acceptance, especially in the Black community. We have this huge push of acceptance. So that's why even in the Black community, we allow a lot of certain things that we shouldn't have allowed to happen, but it happened in the Black community to happen. All because of acceptance, instead of understanding that if they don't accept us, fine. We just do our own thing and make it work. You know what I'm saying? So that's the issue that I have with that, the whole acceptance part. If it doesn't work, fine. Let it go. Let them do whatever they want to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm not going to push it. Now, however, the last part of this is dealing with the hate part. Now, if you don't accept a person being, gay, straight, bi, whatever, stuff like that, that's fine. You don't have to accept that. But if you pushing hate in that word, you want to do physically harm to that person because of their lifestyle, that is wrong, period. And this is the same thing with racism too. If a black person hate a white person because they're white, and you pushing hate in there where you want to do either physically, mentally, or spiritually harm to that person, it is wrong. Period. Same thing wrong with supremacy. Period. You push that issue and you doing harm with them physically, mentally, or spiritually, it is wrong. Period. No matter how the way you flip it, it is wrong. Period. And people have to come into that realization of that. That is how I see it. They just got to come to that realization and just accept that. Period.
I think you talked about two things, right? So acceptance is very different in and of itself from agreeing, right? So you don't have to agree with something to accept it. Radical acceptance means that we're being dialectical in our thought processes, and as people, if we're going to adequately house the stress management skills that help us to become our best versions of ourselves, we have to embody that, right? So I feel like radical acceptance is necessary. You have to be able to be a person that accepts the fact that you believe in something and another person believes in another thing in the same framework, in the same space. And those two things are not synonymous, but they're equally important to the plight of the individuals who believes what they're believing in. And so what that looks like is we have different ideals, we have different cultures, we have different religious beliefs, spiritual beliefs, or whatever they are, that ground and shape our morality or the content of our character. And as a result of that, just that alone, we are who we are innately. So we radically accept that this is a fact. And those things that we hold true for our individual selves do not have to be something that is collectively held as a universal truth for us all. So that's accepting the fact that this is a thing that is happening. Doesn't mean that we're agreeing that that thing is the thing that's happening that fits our ideals or our lifestyle. Now, people in the Black community don't want to be accepted. I think that you got that one wrong. Black community of today's society, they don't believe in inclusion either. They believe in superiority because there is an inferiority complex that has seeded that superiority idea or that idea of entitlement. So understanding the psyche of the traumatized mind, by ways of segregation, post-segregation, and the way that it's been cultivated in the young Black minds of today is a whole separate conversation.
We're not speaking on that. And I'm talking about in the past, during pre-segregation, post-segregation, within that generation, that at the end of the day they was looking for acceptance. They no longer didn't want to be looking as being as slaves, but they wanted to be equal in that sense. But the modern generation is exactly what you're saying. That is more of a supremacy type of mentality that's just going there where they want the Black culture to be superior over any culture due to what happened in the past.
So if we were to go back to the post-segregation movement, Black people, even then, they didn't want to be accepted. They wanted to be included. Inclusivity is not the same as people accepting you. They had come to a point where they realized that the world around them was a world that was not ready for them. Very much similar to what the LGBTQIA plus community, very similar to where they are, right? The world around me has been and has looked a certain way. And I'm now introducing my ideals into this world where I am a free person who is not only free, but is free to express and become whatever I want to be. And in that becoming, I would like to be an inclusive part of that said community because my ideals are going to shape and help grow, cultivate this community that I'm now trying to become a part of. So it doesn't mean that community has to accept me per se. It means that they have to include me so my ideas can help shape it because I am going to be a part of it. So inclusivity doesn't equate to acceptance either. We can accept the existence of a thing and still very much decide to go our own way. Like It's the MGTOW. That's what MGTOW means. Men going their own way, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Men have not moved far from accepting that women are who they are. They've accepted that women are who they are, and as a result of them accepting them, they have decided to move and go and be in their own way. And so what that really means essentially is that I talked to you guys about the basic role of the woman and the man in their heterosexual relationship. That means that they're no longer going the way in which their compass is guiding them. They now want to be their own individual compass and at the same time leaders as well. That's what that means ultimately. That's what that boils down to. And that's, you want the definition of insanity? There it is. But so, it is what it is. You can't be both. I mean, you got a hand in everything, but that hand is not going to give you adequate advisement as to which way to go here or there and be successfully tethered and have a line, right? A legacy left here on this earth. So it is what it is. But essentially, the mode and the mindset of the old school Afro-American Negro and the current modern day Black American, those two mindsets are so far in between. There is so much space in the ideals that guide and shape the movements of these folks that they're not even one and the same. They're a whole different race of people altogether. They're completely disassociated from their ancestors. You're not the same. You don't have the same struggles. You can't identify with them. They don't align. It's not pragmatic. Move on. That's how I feel. That's my message to you young people, period, point blank. You do, however, have a different struggle right now. You have to move into a place that positions you to receive these group of people that are a part of your subculture. Is how they will be. Now, I feel like they're in so many ways behaving in a way that is exclusive to where their content is only fitting the narrative that they're the only people in the world that exist. So that's the only problem I have with this video. I wouldn't have a problem with my question to you guys is, how would you feel about your kid watching this? Blue's Clues is shown to kids between the ages of 0 and 3 years old.
Yeah, my youngest daughter fall within that age range. More than likely, I probably wouldn't be sharing that to her. But if she was in a daycare environment, or if she was even going to within the public school system, I'm pretty sure that they would try to show that to her and our pupils.
Yeah, because the school is responsible for cultivating and shaping the lives of your kids. And for those of you who feel like this is something they don't want their kids to see, I want you to know you must be a person that's willing to take their children out of school and homeschool their children, which I feel like people should do any damn way. But that's my business. And
it's funny that you mentioned that too. And we was talking about spiritual things. To be honest with y'all, that's exactly what God did with y'all through 2020. A lot of y'all separate complaining to me, oh my God, my kids can't go to school. Really, God was challenging y'all to take your kids out of school and homeschool your kids, showing you what they were showing you exactly what teachers go through with your children on the everyday basics. Where parents, they take their kids to school not to learn, but they take their children to school to be a daycare so they could go to work.
Yep.
And they rely on the school system to cultivate them instead of them cultivating children. That's the whole point of 2020. And y'all didn't get that, and y'all missed the boat on that. If some people, like I got people who I personally know, they got their kids out of school and they still got their kids out of school homeschooling them because they felt that it's a better fit than being in the public school system.
Yeah.
To be honest,
my kids came out of school before 2020 because I'm an essential component to treating coronavirus. But so I knew things about it before everybody else did. But my kids never went to school that year. But and they're out of school still. I homeschool my own kids. I've always homeschooled them in addition to sending them to American schools. I just don't trust the school system to render the level of education and insight that my kids need to have at the point where they're graduating and ready to enter the world. Parents are responsible for cultivating, molding, and shaping the personalities that we're putting out here in society. So when society fails as a whole, you failed society. Same way with the man and woman relationship. You're responsible for cultivating these kids, people. You should be teaching them about LGBTQAI plus GT. You should be teaching them about the world that they're growing up in. Because at the end of the day, these people aren't going to go away.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the station I have with that video, because I believe at that young age, that's not age appropriate at that moment to teaching a 0 to 3-year-old something like that, or even exposing them to something like that at that age while they're still developing. But however, later on through life, if they want to teach that to them where their minds is more developed, so they can understand the difference between the two, then absolutely, you do that, because I'll be doing that as well, because this is the reality that we live in, and this is the world that we live in now, and we have to guide our children into every possible situation that they're going to deal with when they in their adult life.
Well, I think what happens is if you condition a child to believe that the framework for relationships are man to female, female to man, and then you decide to introduce this later, the child, very much like you, because you were already conditioned that way yourself, are going to hold the biases, the same level of biases, the same level of rejection, the same level of resistance to the idea that this is an acceptable system that you hold currently. In order to reduce and remove, actually, not reduce, but to mitigate the factors of biases and discrimination against people that have relationships that look different, children have to be conditioned from the very onset to understand that this is a type of relationship, and people have these types of relationships, and relationships can look a number of ways, and these are a couple of the relationships that people can maintain between each other. My kids have learned, and I feel like, with the LGBTQIA plus community, I feel like with this video, I feel like they did an injustice to something that they could have done very well by just simply including the fact that there are also heterosexual relationships out of here. Now,
absolutely.
I feel like parents are responsible for cultivating and shaping the minds of kids and helping them to understand what relationships look like. But on a larger scale and on a larger level, I feel like I've always educated my kids, and the LGBTQIA community has failed again because I feel like they're now incorporating things that go more so into sexuality than it does into gender.
Yeah,
and
absolutely,
so
which is totally different.
Yeah, so you can't be a gender-based association and then decide to be a sexual orientation based organization. You can't do both. You got to draw the line of delineation, because the thing is, the world is now moving into a position to receive you, and it has to. And we can't receive you if you don't have you together. And I say the same thing about the Black community. How can you expect the world to receive you if you don't even know your culture? You don't even have your own things together. You want somebody to receive you like that? You're a mess. Get it together. Like, literally. So I think that when we start to combine sexual orientation, right, and gender orientation and gender identity, right, I think that we're doing an injustice to the people that are paying attention in the back. My kids have been very familiar with all the aspects of the alternative lifestyle community, because that's really where this content belongs. All of this extra stuff you're adding on to the LGBT community. It belongs there. Your gender preferences have nothing to do with your sexual preferences. Being a lesbian is a sexual orientation preference. Okay. Being a bisexual person is a sexual orientation, sexual preference. Okay. Being, what's the other one? Gay, sexuality, sexual orientation. Okay. All right. Let's talk about the T. Transsexuality. Is that about your sexuality, your sexual orientation, or is that about your gender? That's about gender. You understand what I'm saying? Intersex people. Intersex people are about gender. Okay? Like, make this make sense. You cannot combine the two. Sexuality, LGB, goes in alternative lifestyle living, different types of living and lifestyles that go against what Western popular culture has decided that represents the very basic of the frameworks of relationships, right? Your gender identity is not one and the same. So when we start talking about non-binary people, when we start talking about those things, those are gender identities. So you got to separate the two, draw the line of delineation, make it clear for people so we can better provide a framework for children that will, of course, be providing services for you, a medical field that will be providing services for you, people that will be in a community with you in a more responsive way that's more emotionally ready and available to receive you for who you are. Make it make sense. Like, draw the line of delineation, period, point blank. If you're going to talk about relationships, you want to put some content out there like this, put all types of relationships in there, including the heterosexual ones. Because guess what? The heterosexual relationships, believe it or not, whether you guys want to accept it or not, based off of what you're currently doing as a movement, when we're talking about Pride, LGBTQIA plus community, includes transsexuals, geniuses, and some of those transsexuals are in heterosexual relationships. So you're not doing any injustices for the you know what I mean? Popular culture. You're doing an injustice to yourself. Complete your portfolio, ma'am, sir, them, they, however you want to be, referred as, and then come back to the table and redistribute it. That's my only thing. That's my only thing. And kids have to be shaped by their parents. You have to me, I've never shaped my kids to feel like one relationship dynamic is more important or has more validity than the next. My kids have always understood before the law started to change in America, because they've been raised abroad and they have a wide array of experiences. So they understand that people in relationships can look very different, and that's okay. Whatever they look like, it's about freedom of expression. Do what you want to do. If you're a woman and you want to date a woman, date a woman. If you're a man and you want to date a woman, date a woman. If you're a man and you want to date a man, date a man. Whatever you want to do, have at it. Have at it. But acceptance doesn't mean that agreeing with the thing is a necessity. I don't have to agree with what you do in order for me to accept that that's you. I accept every person for who they are. I don't agree with every person's actions. I definitely don't agree with every single Black person that lives in the hood that didn't tell on Ray Ray that shot cousin Fred down the street. I accept that is something that is a part of Black culture in America, because that's a truth. I hate it, but it's a truth. I accept that it's something that we need to change. I don't agree with it. You understand what I'm saying? I accept that some people are brown skinned, some people are light skinned, some people are dark skinned, and some people are white skinned. But I don't agree with the way that they interact with one another. Not all the time. So we have to accept that this is something that's going to happen, and we're going to be exposed to it. So our kids, and we have to reframe our thinking when it comes to conditioning kids. And to be honest with you, I think there are a lot of things that are now going to be questioned about the religions of people.
Mhm.
in these situations. So it is what it is. But
Yep. Overall, I agree with you. Can't
so,
knock that.
it is what it is. Well, folks, that's my show for today. I want to thank the Urban Therapist for coming up here in his official capacity to um, co-broadcast with me, co-feature or feature or whatever. I really thank him for his insights, and as always, I appreciate you guys for sharing in the conversation, sharing the content, and definitely being a part of initiating these very difficult conversations. I know we've talked about a host of things over the course of this 3 hours. It's been definitely long. It's been great.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's one thing about us. We always we have some great insightful conversations. Sometimes time gets away from us, but hey, as long as we're doing what we do, it's great. But I do want to shout out not only to the chat room who's participated in live discussion with Dr. J, but I also want to shout out to Mad Militant and Mr. Moneyboy Trey. Please, please, please go sub to their channels. They are on YouTube as well. Please.
Yeah, definitely, because they got some really interesting content. Also, I wanna shout out to Moneyboy Trey myself for helping to open up my insights into some of the additional dialogue, and also you that Tommy Sotomayor has to offer to these conversations at this point. But also for shout out to Mario J for bringing a lot of the Derek Jackson, Kevin Samuel stuff to my door, because those are people that I didn't know about at all, right? Before they were mentioned by them and then my other followers. I'm like, so how important is this person? So I think that we sometimes don't get the content until somebody that we know has access to the content. And I'm newer on this content creation thing. When it comes to targeting and reviewing the content of other content creators. And I'm not real big on the following people and stuff like that, because I do believe in keeping your individual mind around things, but I definitely am always open for collaborative conversations. So I'm always open to have a conversation. So if anybody would think of inviting Kevin Samuels to my platform, if you guys want to shout that out, if you want to shoot that to him, go right ahead.
I know for a fact that that Tommy he will come onto your platform, because he's big on supporting platforms, especially with a small following. He will do that. That's one thing I do have to give him credit for, because he did it with Moneyboy. He did an interview with Moneyboy, and it was a really good interview, and you need to check that out on Moneyboy page.
Actually, I did. I checked that out last night. So I was quite interested in a lot of things that he had to say. I was impressed. I was impressed with the interview all overall. And like I said, I haven't had an opportunity to have any direct following of the guy, because there was so much toxicity around what he became after he was coming out of that. But I feel like, a lot of people have their traumas. They deal with it in different ways and stuff like that. I'm not one to push healing on anybody. If when you heal, it'll resonate in your spirit, and then you'll gravitate to it. Same thing I say about Kevin Samuels. There's a lot of stuff under there, but I think that the world is seeing him shape his platform and himself in a different way now. He's kind of gone back on a lot of things he said. I don't know if y'all watching that, but I mean,
now,
some clips.
Now a lot of platforms that I follow, even on Facebook in the groups. To be honest with you, I follow them not for entertainment, but just to gain insight and to just get a different perspective about how the way people think. So it could also help me out in the long run to understand people and for us to have these conversations. So that's the reason why I do. That's the reason why I sub to I'm sub to Tommy Sotomayor channel. I'm sub to Kevin Samuel channel and a lot of others as well. just to get that different
Here's my
perspective.
subscription. I haven't even listened to. I can't even stomach a full episode of him. I would hate.
I mean, you don't have to like even with Kevin Simon, his show's about, as long as we did our show, his show's about 3 hours long too. So normally what I do, I already know the gist of what he's going to talk, because he always say about the same thing all the time. So I just skip all the way into when he first started having these interviews with these women. That's why I skip to. So and just listen to the dialogue with that, just to get an understanding about what's going on, and just watch that from beginning to end.
Okay. Well, you'll have to give me the points, give me the minutes as to where I need to skip to.
It normally be within the 2-hour mark. It normally be right after the 2-hour mark when he actually started doing his actual interviews. And this on YouTube, by the way. I don't know about Instagram, because I don't follow him on Instagram, because I'll barely be on Instagram. Even though I have an Instagram account for the Official Urban Therapist, but I'll barely be on there. But YouTube, it normally happens within like the 2.5-hour minute mark. That's when he normally started doing his interviews. So you can just fast forward into that and just listen to the dialogue from that point.
Well,
that's what I do.
Yeah, I think I might do that, because it's, I find it very difficult to stomach people that the only thing they have to say is negative, and the only energy they bring to the table is negative energy. So I'm more of a person that is motivated by positive energy. That's another reason, like, I had some reservations about the Tommy Sotomayor thing, because people would ask me to say things or review things, or what do you think about this, he said, and this and the third, for years. And I'm like, I'm not entertaining that.
Yeah.
I'm giving it my clicks, because at the end of the day, I don't believe in negative energy, and I really hate to have to tear down another person just to, build a platform. I don't believe in that. I feel like the more we support one another and support the idea that we are all very different and all of our opinions have some level of validity, us at least, that's what works for me. I'm about the inclusion of people, inclusivity of people, regardless of what those people look like. And whether it's Tommy Sotomayor, I feel like he said some very impactful things in his conversation with Trey, and it speaks to what I was talking about, because I'm telling you, when I say that I'm an avid person that will not argue, I'm not about to argue. I'm not about to be in an argument with a man, because I already know what that's going to look like. I'm a verbal assassin to men and women. So all of this positive energy I put out there, I have the same energy when it comes to the negative content. It's about self-control. And I refuse to put that stuff out there. I refuse to put that type of energy into the atmosphere. For what? And I don't move. I already told you, I don't move. I'm not motivated by emotional energy. Like, if I come after you, it will be facts that break you. That's just how I am. And the reality is this: I'm not out here for that. I don't like people to tear down other people. I'm just not with that. I don't like to see men in a public argument with one another and not actually listening to understand that there is a reason this man differs in his opinion than yours. That woman disagrees with that opinion, you know what I mean, that you have, etc. So I'm all about expanding the mind, not shrinking the mind. I'm really a person that's inclusive about perspectives and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm open. So if Tommy Sotomayor wants to have a conversation, if Kevin Samuels wants to have a conversation, if Derek Jackson with his toxic ass want to have a conversation, I'm for it.
Don't do Derek like that. He's changing.
He is.
I follow him too. He's changing. He's slowly changing with they confused self, but it's okay.
He is as toxic as he has been toxic from the beginning. I am one of the only women that I know.
God's still working on him.
God, the universe, and everything's still working on him, and he ain't ever gonna be done. But and you got a whole wife and kids, and that's my biggest problem with the Derek Jackson thing. You built a platform, and I'm very protective of my personal life too. Like, I can guarantee you will never be able to Google and find anything that I don't want already out there. I'm very meticulous in the way I move. That's just one of the things that comes along with the history that I have with the federal government. It's a given, you know what I mean? It's a privilege. But at the end of the day, if your platform is relationships, Why is your relationship hiding? You know, family. It's a lot of stuff that I got. And I always had an issue with that from the very beginning. I was like, man, this dude right here, what is he? What are you doing? What are you doing? Ew, look at you. I can see right through you, dude. Look me in the eye and tell me that lie. So, you know, it's, and a lot of things didn't make sense that he was at. And I really, like I told you, I don't like it when people are building, trying to put other people down. So if you're putting other people that look just like you down, i.e. the black man, the man in general, whatever, what is that doing for you? Accountability is different than you shaming these men for not having or possessing the qualities that help them have or maintain positive relationships with women. Give them some solutions. So it is what it is. I'm outcome driven. Always willing to have a conversation, but understand that I'm here for the difficult content, the difficult conversations, the things that you don't want to face, the things you don't want to own up to, and all that good stuff. That's me. I'm that person. So if you're here for that, so am I. If you're a person that thinks or is looking for somebody to sugarcoat stuff, I'm not it. I'd rather just not speak on it, period, than the sugarcoat. We're just not going to do that. Call a thing, get yourself together. Hey, Lisa, how are you? Thanks for watching. Yeah, Trey out there somewhere. I don't know where he at, but he out there somewhere. He was supposed to be on this, you know, on this thing.
Even Trey said he been with you for the past couple of days. He need a break from you, woman, so leave him alone. I'm here. I'm dealing with you.
Trey about content, too. Like y'all on rotation. That's what it is. Work it together. But so it's been real. You guys don't forget to like, share, subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, if you didn't already share the content, share it in the aftermath, and then tell somebody to skip somewhere through to, I don't know, 5 minutes or so. But it was a great conversation overall. We did cover a lot of ground on this particular one. So I hope that it manifests with somebody. I hope that somebody gets the wake up call and is doing something different as of to now. Go out there, make great choices. I love you guys. Take care of one another. Don't be crazy out here in these streets, and stop being toxic in your masculinity, men, and stop being toxic in your femininity, women. And learn how to guide from a place of secure and confident bonds, man. Learn how to follow and rest in your femininity, women, and learn how to lead from your position in a relationship. So that's all I got. Official Urban Therapist, tell them where they can find you.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate that. Once again, I appreciate for being on your platform and all these good, tough conversations that we have. Now I am on Facebook as the Official Urban Therapist, and I'm also on YouTube as well as the Official Urban Therapist. Just type it up. It'll pop up the Official Urban Therapist. You will see this handsome picture that you're seeing right now of me. That is me, the Official Urban Therapist. Thank you. Appreciate y'all.
All right. Later days, you guys take care.